Good evening and welcome to the Town of Belgrade Planning Board meeting of November 21st. It is 6:03 and we're gonna call the meeting to order. We're gonna start with a roll call. Tonight we have with us Penny Morale, and we have Mr. Peter Surgeon and Mr. George Seal and Mr. Craig Alexander and Mr. Hans Rasmussen, who's the CEO, and myself, Sarah Langet. I'm gonna ask members of the public, of the audience, to introduce themselves. And also, if you have not signed the paper right here in front, please do so when you have a chance. So, we wanna start? Sen?
Bradley Bader, formerly with Seven Lakes Lions.
All right,
Jana Townsend, part of the Belgrade Lakes and Natural Resources Committee.
Tanya Rathenis, I'm part of the shoreline zoning group that's coming up with the new ordinance.
all right,
Chris Bradley, part of the Lakes and Natural Resources Committee.
Maddie Bradley, Belgrade resident.
thank you,
Patrick Fair, Lakeside Landscape.
all right,
Aaron Muto with Lakeside Landscape.
all right,
Paul Feinberg, member of the committee.
all right,
Pat Donahue, member of the committee.
thank
Lily
you,
Dallas, member of the committee.
all right,
Andrew Dallas, Belgrade resident.
all right.
Lenny Raish, a member of the committee.
All right, well, welcome all. So, tonight in new business, the first, item that we have is going over the, recommendations that have been forwarded to us from the Lake and Natural Resource Committee. And we had an extensive report, a very detailed report, excellently done. And, so we originally allocated 15 minutes for this section. But just so happened that instead of 2 applications tonight, we're gonna end up working with only 1. So your time have been extended to 30 minutes. And I spoke briefly with Mr. Donahue about this process, and he mentioned that he would like to see what the board was gonna, what our first thoughts about the report. And do we still want to proceed that way with the, even when we have extended time?
Chris, what do you think for that?
Well, yeah, I've been appointed to lead the discussion with the planning board. And I think that if we could get the impressions of the planning board on the report and then work through it, and if we can make some progress tonight would be great. Otherwise, we can talk about what you all think, how we should go about this and work through the changes. This comes at, I was looking back through my notes, and we've had 15 meetings since we actually, I mean, we got the charge in beginning of March, but we actually started meeting on it in February. So it's the product of a lot of meetings, a lot of talks, a lot of presentations, reading and homework on the part of our committee. So we're hoping to
It really shows.
make some progress. Thank you.
So with that said, then, I'm in emails back and forth with me and Pat. We table around the concept that, the board, thought that maybe if we put in, I think it's 14 of the recommendations.
There are 12.
12, okay.
12.
So, the 12 recommendations to be ordered in the priority that you guys will weigh it to be more impactful. And the feedback that I got from Pat was that all you guys felt that each one of them are very important, that there's no way to really prioritize them. So they're presented in the document as the way the ordinance rolls, in the order that the ordinance is read.
Right.
Right, excellent. So with that, I will open the floor for discussion about the packet, how I asked everybody to go over the packet and think about it, and but I never asked, for, got back feedback or asked for feedback on how we wanted to go about it. We're gonna go first dialoguing about it. Mr. Seal?
First, thank you very much for all your hard work. It's very much appreciated. Was actually quite interested in a few of the references that you used, particularly the material from West Virginia University. I think it would be helpful to me if we talked a little process first, though, in terms of how we're going to proceed, because there's a lot here. There's no way we're going to get through this today, even once, I don't think. But I don't know, you know, also how much time are we gonna devote, not just tonight, but in the at the next meeting, for example, and possibly the meeting after that, recognizing that we also have to deal with the aftermath and the outcome from the Supreme Court case that the town lost with regard to shoreline zoning. And as far as I'm concerned, that's far more urgent than these are.
Excuse me, I made Mr. Donohue aware of that, and that's why initially we had 15 minutes.
Can you explain what that is, what the town lost?
But just briefly.
I can chime into it. We had a court case brought up to the town. It's called the Belgrade Lakes, town of Belgrade, I'm sorry, town of Belgrade versus Stiff. And so we have a resident that took the town to court for a decision that was made related to a shoreline zone property. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. We lost. Initially, it went like we win and then we lost and then we win and then we lost at the end, something like that. And the aid of it is that is the final opinions of the Supreme Court is gonna somewhat change the way we're gonna be dealing portion of the shoreline zone ordinance in terms of the secondary structures. So, yeah, so that said, the whole state of Maine is looking at the town of Belgrade to decide how we're gonna steer, move forward into it, and we have a very, to me, was soothing and elated at the same time, a conversation with our lawyer last meeting. And he really gave us a very narrow path, but there's a path. And so we have to work on that very quickly, because that's the bulk of our applications here. So we have to settle that down and frame up a set of black and white rules on how in an interim, we're gonna be working with new applications before the March meeting, where we're gonna have those rules be voted by the town to be instituted in the ordinance. And it's all great timing, because if some of this get involved too, we'll be able to morph the ordinance altogether with some of the suggestions, and then the ones that we're gonna be working on the case, and that because of the visibility and impact of that case, that's almost like number one priority. So.
So the new ruling, the secondary structure within like a 1 acre piece, now they can do it in the shoreline zone, is that?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
There's a ruling that they can have a secondary structure within a.
That's LD 2003.
Right now, so
By
they
that-
can also do it in the shoreline zone?
No,
The
she
two
said
key-
secondary, it should be, said accessory.
Accessory.
Yeah,
And basically the ruling says size matters, if it's big and it duplicates the residence.
Yeah.
No go, not allowed.
and
So-
the other secondary issue besides what is the definition of accessory structure, and the fact that we applied it incorrectly in this particular case in the court's decision. What Sarah was saying, the town prevailed both at the Board of Appeals and also in Superior Court, the laws in Supreme Court. So as a matter of law, the Supreme Court's created new law. And in terms of how you define an accessory structure. Secondarily, it found that you cannot, so you have accessory structures, you have principal structures. Principal structures got this funky definition of it's anything other than an accessory structure. Okay, so I know that makes absolutely no friggin' sense, but that's the way the law is written. So in effect, it defines principal structure by default. And it also found that you cannot have two principal structures on the same law, potentially. And we're, at least I, speaking for myself, can't figure out why. And our attorney wasn't able to really answer the question. The attorney from the Attorney General's office, who's also weighed in, doesn't really have an answer or hasn't provided us any guidance with it. So that's the conundrum we're in, and we have to decide how we're gonna move forward. Are we just gonna bumble along, hope we make the right decisions as we go? Or do we amend the ordinance and come up with some standards to ensure that our decisions are consistent?
So I'm a little more optimistic, Mr. Seal, that's all. So,
My point of view is I do not want to see the town and its taxpayers
yeah.
have the legal liability that we currently have. In terms of possibly having to go through the court system yet one more time in some future permit decision that we make.
So that said, you guys understand our workload. You wanna just go one by one, or?
Well, I was just wondering, because I assume everybody on the board has reviewed this.
Mhm.
And so should have some initial thoughts on those that they feel has merit and we should pursue now versus sometime in the future. Or not, or otherwise the only alternative is go one by one. I would point out that I, for myself, have some reservations, not about the merit or intent. I still have questions about the legality of the way some of these recommendations are written, that they stumble across the same legal issue that Maine Municipal Legal Department already raised with the earlier proposal for an across the board vegetative buffer, because some of these are written in the same manner. That's a solvable problem, but I just want to put that out there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are written that way.
Can I answer way in?
Sure.
I live in the lake in here, since 1990. And, as you know, the water quality gotten worse. And I think the work you've done, is, moving in the right direction. And you've limited some of your, recommendations, back, you brought them back to you essentially, made it more, palatable to the property owners who are not on this committee at all, which is, it's okay, fine. What you've done is good, and I think going forward, we only have so much time to work on this stuff. And we've already gone through shoreline zoning, and you're doing all the work, and I think you're gonna have to continue doing it. And, so with the process here, I think if we don't have the time, and I don't have the time to spend, to go through the 12 recommendations. And I think if you just put the whole thing together, submit it to this committee, we can pretty much spend some time, about 15, 20 minutes, and go with it, put it in front of the public, and go through the process and let it fly and see what happens. You're gonna have to get the rest of the town involved, and you may as well move right along and see what happens. And it may get turned down, then you know what you're gonna kind of change. Is for us to make those recommendations. We're too small a group, this group really to tell you what's good about it, what isn't, this and that. We've got a lot of people in this town who don't live in the lake, but they use the lake, and they're concerned about the quality of the water here, and they've seen it deteriorate. And so And I think you have a lot of people on your side, you don't really realize who they are. So I think you need to step up the plate, and we should step up the plate, let you go forward and put it up for vote and go through the process and hopefully get it done by town vote, see what happens.
All right, so, so I understand we're still dealing with recommendations, and then we have to, decide what is gonna go on the ordinance before it goes to, the board of the town. So Craig, do you have any opinion on this?
Yeah, that's pretty thing, I don't know how you can make, people, existing owners have inspections for the septics, even though, I mean, it would be good, but I don't know how you can make everybody. I don't know how it can be retroactive. I don't think that's legal. When it changes hands, we've already have something like that in place. I've spoken about septic with Seven Lakes Alliance before when Anthony took over. And because there was a bunch of stuff being thrown around, I was you know, how about subsidies? Supposedly there is some help out there for people to repair. But at that time, I was told, it wasn't a really large effect on the lakes. I can't remember who your scientist was there, the new woman that took over,
Danielle, yeah,
Danielle. She told me it had fairly little effect on the lake. So at that point, what I was suggesting was obsolete. There's also, you know, the tree cutting, we already have a system in place for that. Am I correct on that? And
It's complicated, but yeah.
it's complicated, but there's already a system in place for that. Removing the dock. We have got something next to the shoreline that we just brought up. And I don't know how I feel totally about that one. So, and don't get me wrong, I'm all about upgrading septics. But whether you can force that upon people, I don't think you can. You can try to promote it, but I don't think you can force it on to people.
I think in Auburn that they're doing that, they're actually
Well,
going
that's a
through.
public water supply.
Yeah. They have a obligation under the main drinking water laws to, and more authority than the town has, for
Okay.
example, as a consequence of that.
Can we go probably quickly one by one? And,
Sure.
and maybe, quickly, vote on this, and this one, say quickly what we think about it, and then move through all of them and, kind of, highlight the ones that we think they're, for us to have more weight.
Sarah,
Yes,
I read it on my computer, but I don't have,
you don't have package.
So,
I'm sorry, Penny, I didn't know you had it.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know you had it. I will get it for you. So,
Yes, okay, no problem.
right, so, let's go to number one. This is, property owners receiving in a main DEP environmental protection permit by rule must also apply to the town of Belgrade permit before undertaking the project. The Belgrade code enforcement officer shall review the permit application and in order to protect the proceed determine if the permit is required to be issued by either the CEO or the planning board.
This is one that, I think Hans had had an opinion on.
Yeah, because it's something that I've started to do. Anyhow, it's just not in the ordinance. So, section 14 is the land use table. And if you look at the very end of it. It has a note. That says, anyway, person performing, it basically notifying that they might need a permit by rule.
Mhm.
So my thought is. Maybe in the beginning of section 14, before the land use table, we put. A ordinance change that says. Any. Permit by rule must be reviewed by the code officer. To verify if a permit is required. Something to that effect. And that way we have an ordinance. It's in black and white that they. And the review will be, well, is a permit required? Is it required by the code officer or is it required by the planning board? Or is there no need for a permit period? But either way, it gets reviewed and they'll get a response.
And just a clarification is that we require you to apply. We don't know whether it's a permit, but the property owner must apply for a permit. And then the CEO of the planning board determines if a permit is required. But not every permit, any PBR requires a municipal permit.
Go ahead.
So the concept. I think has merit. I'm a little concerned about. What the workload is. There are no numbers here in terms of numbers of PBRs that come to. On the Belgrade Lakes, in Belgrade. I guess to move forward, I would need a better understanding of the scope of the work, required and the numbers.
Well,
I like your description of this better than yours.
I got 4 last month. I mean, it varies. You know, some months there's none. A lot of contractors during the winter. Just like they use this planning board. They do a lot in advance.
I mean, it's a big difference between requiring everybody that gets needs a PBR or is applying to DEP for a PBR to also apply for a shoreline zoning permit versus a copy going to you for your review to determine which ones need. So
And
I think that needs to be worked out.
I don't think they need to apply because the application carries a fee with it.
I mean, I assume you don't want to get into all
No,
the
no, no,
weeds.
just, but what I'm hearing from the group here is that this one has weight. What I was
I
seeing,
think it's easy to implement too.
okay. All right, second one. The use of all fertilizers containing phosphorus is prohibited within the shoreline zone. Fertilizers containing nitrogen, potassium may be used if in liquid form. Comments on that one?
Be enforced.
Is that a difficulty on it?
That was my question too, but before even that, this one, I question the legality of it, the way it's written, it runs right in, smack dab into the same issue that we've run into before. And just to read MMA's opinion on this, it can only have requirements that are triggered when a landowner of a non-conforming use or lot seeks to expand or alter their lot or use, and this is an across the board requirement, so that at best, it would seem to me. If we're gonna regulate fertilization, it can only happen when somebody applies for a permit and is planting a lawn or something like that. And then there's minor things like, what about when you're doing plantings, for example, even infiltration buffer strip. You initially need phosphorus to get the root systems going. That's just basic horticulture.
Hans,
Um,
you didn't want to go and enforce this, so.
I've read some ordinance from other towns that don't specify fertilizer, they go into chemical applications. Which would be pesticides, and they usually limit it or focus on granules, it's not solid, needs rain that can, to dissolve it. And by the time it's halfway dissolved, it's run down into the lake, so some of these ordinances require their put down in liquid form by professionals, not by homeowners. And yeah, enforcement's terrible because, well, now we're limiting all, I think it was the town of Bath had an ordinance, but the local hardware store was selling fertilizer left, right, and sideways because they're not checking who lives where, and it's not their job to enforce it. But now the lady watering tomatoes on her deck with Miracle Grow. You know, it's like they get into all sorts of troubles. There are other ordinances out there, I think this one has merit, but not right away.
All right,
Maybe we work on it.
all right, sounds good. Number 3. Require inspection of all septic systems that do not have documentation file within the town of Belgrade, were constructed prior to 1995 or are located in sensitive soils. The required inspection shall also determine if wastewater is short-circuiting the system and tunneling into the groundwater table relatively untreated.
We worked with David Roque on this one, are you familiar with him? Yeah, soil scientist, and he's been working with the town of Lovell for Keyser Lake on this sort of thing. And I respect that maybe Daniel Wayne at Seven Lakes Alliance may not feel that septic is a big concern, but Dave Roque does, and
I would disagree with that she doesn't know. She only operates on actual scientific data and she doesn't have it. So it's not that she doesn't think they're a problem. She thinks she doesn't have enough data to say they are a problem. I think it's just an obvious thing that septics would be, that are not in working order.
Yeah, and my experience, I know a couple situations in Rome that have been fixed, but they were failed systems that were going into the lake, and man, yeah, I mean, and we had another one in Rome that Lynn Matson knew about, is that he knew that when that was it was a holding tank, I think, wasn't it? If you remember that, but in any case, I think it's a serious issue, and that we feel like this is something that would address it, and would be very important. So
I don't think you can just go make people have their septic tested. But if we can tie that in somehow with any type of permit, rather than trading hands, ownership. So if they come in for any sort of shoreline permit, I'd be up for having a septic tested. Possibly, if it's legal.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Craig. I mean, based on, the opinion from MMA Legal as well as our own town attorney back, when you folks asked for a legal opinion back early in the summer, as it's written, I question whether it could be, shoreline zoning could be used to accomplish this across the board, even for people not applying for permits, but as an upgrade to the existing inspection requirements that we have in the ordinance, I think it's worth looking at more closely. There's some implementation questions I have about where these sensitive soils are, what types they are. That would be that would need to be known before we implemented any ordinance changes, not after the fact for it to work. And so that mapping would have to be done in advance. I don't know if that,
It exists.
The mapping.
Mapping.
Mapping
Yeah.
exists.
oh, it does?
Can provide
Okay,
that.
I didn't pick that up from the way it was written.
Oh.
I got the impression that was something that interns were gonna be doing.
No,
Now, when people come here for an accessory permit to have on this new rule that they have, that they can have a second structure on 1 acre of land, aren't they gonna have to present to you, a septic inspection?
I'm sorry?
This new rule that we were talking about, 2020.
But that isn't, that's not. in
Yeah,
the
that-
program.
No,
that's nothing to do with it.
But yes.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
It would be
but-
if they wanted to build a dock or, I mean, a deck or something like that, a permit, right?
No, they
But,
No, she's talking about LD 2003.
I know.
don't they, wouldn't they have to come to you and say,
They-
well,
they need a
we're
septic
gonna
plan,
inspect our,
yes, As
I
well.
mean, it kind of follows in that same vein, doesn't it?
Well, if they were doing construction.
Yeah, the way this is written, it would be an across the board for all landowners, regardless if they were coming to us for a permit or not. That's the legal issue as far as I'm concerned.
So it would be, we would use interns to identify the properties that were in sensitive soils or older systems. That then would be required. So it wouldn't be across the board. It would be targeted based on not having records at the town of their system or being in sensitive soils.
I think the way it would have to work legally is something along the lines of the way we deal with, say, deer wintering yards or significant wetlands in other ordinances where we would need a map of those areas in Belgrade that have these sensitive soils at a scale that's sensitive enough so that we can make a decision on a lot by lot basis of which ones are included, so
Right.
that when we get a permit application for that particular lot, we know it has sensitive soils on it, and then maybe that, and then that could trigger whatever ordinance requirement evolves from this recommendation in terms of
Well, you get,
an
so there's a
inspection, an
couple-
additional inspection or whatever.
There's the requiring inspection of septic systems that do not have documentation filed with the town. Or were constructed prior to 1995, or are located in sensitive soil. So it's
Three,
three different.
yeah, right,
Things.
in addition to those first two.
Yeah.
Now, Hans, that's a question for you. I realize we're getting into way more.
Yeah, there's a lot of detail on this one.
What are the town's permit records like in terms of LPI permits?
We're getting like 100 a year, but I mean, half of those are septic, roughly, and the other half are internal plumbing.
Yeah, do they go back to, what's the key date, 19?
95 is key date. I've got semi-decent records to the late 90s. So I get within a year of that.
Well, I think this could be worked out, again, it would take some time and energy.
Yeah, that's one that's gonna take a lot of legs. The next one though, also on septic. I think,
Require inspection every 3 years for all septic systems, but, advertise rental properties.
Right, so this is a reaction to properties that, some of which are older that are now advertised on Airbnb and, other things, other, websites. That, then that just changes the demand on that property. And once again, part of this whole concern about septic.
I understand the concern. I know that the state folks, that deal with septic have similar concerns about, short-term rentals and the additional, strain placed on, wastewater systems.
So,
This is sort of like trying to put a square peg through the round hole, though, in terms of shoreline zoning, because we don't regulate rentals. But if somebody came to us and said, I want to build this accessory structure here for a rental, then maybe we could implement something like this. And in fact, we probably already would, wouldn't we?
I think we can back into this one. Because if you, just hear me out, go to the next one. It talks about during a property is transferred.
Yep.
And the way our ordinance reads now, it's section 15J 2A. First three words, a person purchasing. Okay? If we change that to any ownership transfer. Okay, now that's gonna capture more properties. Estate planning. Getting married, you know, whatever, LLCs. Now we're going, requiring inspection of properties with more frequency. Okay, so some properties go generation to generation, and there's never an inspection. This will capture some of those.
Yeah.
The way to back into it is, if under this section, we add another letter, there's A and B, add C. And address the rental property, you know, advertise rental properties.
Yeah, but we don't have any other rental ordinance.
I would need to talk to our attorney about that.
But this isn't a short-term rental, this is rental property, I mean, any use, it's a property use. Under the septic. Insurance zone,
Oh, you mean a full-time rental?
full-time, part-time, if it's advertised as a rental.
Yeah, but
It must be, because right now, in the state of Maine, drinking water is required to be tested every year for rental properties. It's a landlord requirement.
okay, well, obviously, I don't know all the ins and outs, and we're not gonna decide that here. But it seems like there'd be a lot of work involved, and
Well, that's my suggestion, it's not uncharted territory. But I think,
Great, now we're going to number 6, and I think maybe we can stop there. For the purpose of discussion today, I think will be fair. We're probably halfway.
Yes.
Require all septic inspection reports to be filed within the town by the appropriate owner. And that goes in the same line of,
it's kind of already being done.
yeah,
It falls in this, and if we just change this. Verbiage, I mean, there's a person purchasing property, well, if it's given to them. That's the argument with the way our ordinance is written. Doesn't apply because they didn't purchase it.
so I have the same issue that I've raised before. How do we regulate and require an inspection report on a parcel of property that has not applied to us for a permit? I don't think we have the legal authority to do that, not under shoreline zoning. I mean, if we wanted to establish a separate ordinance to do that, maybe.
Well, the
Yeah,
planning
I
board
think
does,
we're tied into if they apply for a permit. Other than that,
I mean, I think we need to review this opinion we got from MMA Legal.
because this ordinance, shoreline zone ordinance isn't enforced by the planning board. You review it during applications. This is something I enforce, and if it's written in here, I can enforce it. I can't.
I'm not talking about authority to enforce, I'm talking about the basic authority and scope of the ordinance itself. Shoreline zoning was not designed for other than permitting decisions and the enforcement of those permits or people that didn't get those permits when they should have. In this case, we're asking landowners across the board, just because they live on the shoreline, to undertake a certain function. And I don't think we have the authority to do that.
Well, we enforce the tree harvesting. That's not with a permit. There's a lot in this ordinance that doesn't have permits attached to it.
I guess I disagree with you, Hans.
all right. So I think for today, that's gonna wrap it up for us, huh? You guys are comfortable with that?
Of course, yeah, Sarah. What,
I mean, I realize this is gonna be more painful than you probably anticipated.
Well,
but-
no, we absolutely knew that it was gonna be painful. It's been painful for, the last 9 months or so. So it's, we've hashed these things out, amongst ourselves and with other outside parties. So we understand it's not easy at all, but this is like, okay, now we want to involve you guys, because we're supposed to, obviously partner with you on this, and this is, the time that we want to work forward. So I know it's painful and this stuff is hard. But can we, I guess, well, anyway, we work through the rest of the items and then, come up with a game plan, I guess, as to how to go forward.
So
from there.
what I'm gonna do is, for the first 6 that I have, I put plus and minuses into it, next to it. And I jot down the concerns of the board. So I'm gonna make a little table for that, and I will kick it out to, Mr. Donahue.
Thank you.
And this, again, Mr. Seal already spoke about this, but this document is wonderful. And even let's say, in this first round, let's say we pick up, I don't know, 4 or 5 of the recommendations. Still, this, this document, what is not added to the ordinance, is still very valuable. And maybe our board will not pass it through this time, but the board turns over, I'm not gonna be here for a long time, all the time. So maybe next other eyes in this board, year or 2 from now, might say, oh, we figured out to be able to implement this easily. Or, so, this document should, somehow we should vault it someplace, in my mind anyways. But
We're not ready to file it away yet.
I understand that, but I just, what I'm trying to tell you is that not to be discouraged if this group only permeate in 4 or 5 of them, and not all of them. And I'm sure that you guys will work yourself out to make sure that we have the good fight, we have the gloves on, and we will do a good fight to finish the whole thing as much as possible.
Or let us help, let us work on something. If you, I understand you get all sorts of stuff and you guys spend a lot of time on just the meat and potatoes of applications and things like that. And now you've got a more serious thing with the Supreme Court decision. So we understand that, but if we can help out, that would be fantastic, because the lake, I live on Great Pond and it's not getting any better. And I've been here since I was not even born yet, so
We don't need to go there, do we?
But no, so anyway, we really have so much invested in this that we want to protect. So, and I think it's in the strategic interest of the
whole community, yes.
Sure, I have one more question for Terry. So as you know, the town is redoing its comprehensive plan, and there's a committee set up for that purpose. In the 2014 plan, which I, along with a whole bunch of other people, worked on, the natural resources protection chapter dealt a lot with shoreline zoning and lake protection. Has there been any coordination between your recommendations and the comprehensive plan committee? I know
They're right
Some
here.
people are on
you have 2 members, so
Right.
there's no conflicts or any, tripping over one over the other from this.
George, I personally follow up a lot of your comments from the 2013-14 plan, and they were excellent. So we're trying to get up to that speed. But certainly I look back to that, our committee does, and the comprehensive plan is a little bit more of a generalist, kind of, it doesn't drill down deep like this.
No, right.
So we're gonna, in parts, and Craig was at our presentation yesterday. We're probably gonna need to drill down more than what, in some cases where we are now, especially with shoreline zoning. It kind of, it has the policies and the strategic part, and the implementing piece, so that's where we're gonna have to.
Yeah, I ask only because this board, after the 2014 plan was approved by the voters, of course, had some responsibilities for implementation of some of the recommendations, including ones to shoreline zoning, which is what resulted in all the changes made in
Yeah.
2018. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, is what it really comes down to. That's all.
Yeah, just for example, of septic, in our comprehensive plan they're working on now, it doesn't get down to this.
Yeah, right.
You know, he wants it to be healthy, improve it, but not you do these 5 things and we can't do these 6 or things like that, so.
Yeah. Sir, in terms of our next meeting, maybe once we get done with, we have a commercial development review application, and we have our discussion about, the Supreme Court case this evening as well. Maybe by the time we get done with that, we'll know how much time we need for those 2 items at our next meeting. And you know, what would be ideal is if we could allocate, you know, like an hour or something like that to this, if time allowed, but I don't know what else we got for applications coming in.
Well, we'll have the second half, of this commercial development one tonight, and you've got a subdivision revision. That's just a revision, but
Okay,
it's gonna take.
All right. Whatever.
We're
Kind of booked
we're
into
kind
January right now.
of. What, so the first week in January, what we have there, is no open,
The shoreline zone
also,
on the second, and then nothing on the 16th.
Does that give you enough time to,
we have to get all wrapped up by the end of January, I think. Everyone,
Yeah.
and about,
I saw an email from the town manager asking for all warrant articles by, I think it was the 3rd week of January, so I wouldn't get your hopes up too high.
Well, we just went through 6 of these in 30 minutes.
Yeah, but we didn't come up with an ordinance language. We need to have ordinance language
Yeah.
to the select board, but at their first meeting in January.
can the town attorney do that? No,
They review it.
they review what you draft?
Yeah,
You-
he'll review it after the select board has looked at it.
Okay.
No, you're looking at it.
Yeah, no, and we had actually, we had spent time to draft language. But, you know, so it's in here.
Well, and your time isn't wasted by any means trying to do that. It's just that we're gonna have to rework some of it at least.
when we, at the end of the meeting today, we take a closer look at our calendars and see, it's so difficult with the holidays and everything else. And see, where we can poke, an hour or 2 in the next month, which is,
What's the goal, is to try to get this to town meeting or something?
the idea will be that, together with, we have to work very hard on this, stiff, opinion. And really, that be the priority to make sure that our language gets in line for the March meeting to be voted on. That's number 1 priority. But since we're doing that anyways, we're trying to funnel this into, in the same.
I'm not, we rushed something last year and I totally didn't like it.
I know, that's the other portion. We don't wanna-
So I'm not interested in rushing anything to make it by town meeting. I'm not gonna come to several extra meetings to cram something in that's getting rushed.
Yeah.
It's out.
We did that last year, I remember.
We're not doing it again.
Last year. We were kind of tight on because it was required by law. It was kind of-
Because after that, we did that with the affordable housing, I learned more stuff after the fact that would have changed my mind on a lot of that. It was because we were rushing it through. that I didn't learn everything I needed to learn.
But we rush it in order to comply with the law, and we, in
Yeah,
rushing
but
is
a lot of
still.
towns didn't, so that was pretty minute reasoning. So, again, I'm not interested in doing that.
I
2 years in a
I
row.
respect your opinion, I respect it.
Question,
So. But
would it be feasible to take one portion of it? For instance, the tree cutting or the septic or just one and say.
so we have gone basically through 6 of them, and I have number 1 is a plus, number 2 is not a plus, 3 is a plus, and 3, 4, and 5, and 6 basically can be in one, can be crunched in one portion of the ordinance, I guess.
Well, septic goes all the way to change 7, so there's another.
Yeah. I personally think the answer to Penny's question is yes, that we could prioritize 1 or 2 of these.
Mhm.
And with your help, determine which ones are, say, the most urgent. That need, the lakes would benefit from them being in place and enforceable. And part of our permitting decision-making for the coming construction season. And not, focus on those, not rush it if we can. If not, we don't, but, it's a matter of picking and choosing wisely, I think. And working on the others for the fall,
If all, yeah.
or I don't know, we could talk to the town manager, but maybe there'll be a June election, I have no idea. And what else is going on?
So those are initial thoughts.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your time. We appreciate it very much.
No problem, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Stan.
Night.
Yeah.
There you go, there you go.
What's that?
Apparently.
All right. That was a long half an hour.
Yeah, it was. That's, never mind. Say so, but I'm thinking.
So next order of business is the application of East Side Holdings Lakeside Station. Location 8 Station Road, map 13, lot 75. Purpose is shoreline zone, office landscape retail center and existing structures. And let's see here. Bear with me for a second. I don't know, copy of the application?
Yeah, I don't need
I don't know,
the thick packet right in front of you,
this, okay.
the thickest. That.
So this is a commercial development review, application. And we are going to go through it for giving it complete.
And it's here because it's a change of use of an existing commercial property that's gonna be used for retail.
Okay,
If it wasn't gonna be retail, I could have processed this myself.
and
These are a star that, they didn't answer, but what they're saying is we'll do whatever the town wants us to do on it. I saw that on, page 19 has a couple of them.
don't we have a checklist for this thing?
page 16, number 46, or whatever the town says. It needs to be. And then page 15 is full of them. And 14 has, and 13 has 4. But it's not that they didn't answer, it's just that. They answered and then there's more. They'll do it.
I apologize, I'm looking for a checklist, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm not, finding one more in there. Let me go.
For some reason, I always thought that it was part,
It
this is part of the package. You guys know that tonight we'll go through the application. And the first process is to deem it, complete. And once it's deemed complete, what happens is that we, ask, the CEO to send, notification to the voters about the application being here and that it's complete, they wanna come and check it out, so on and so forth, and they wanna come to the next meeting and pose their concerns or whatever they think about it. So the next meeting, if we open the meeting, we have nobody, so we will move straight into, processing the permit, do the finding of facts and conclusion of law. But, this particular application it takes 2 weeks, so we're not gonna close it today. Okay.
The applications are going to start in October.
It's a.
Page 7 says, anticipated start and completion of construction date. One of the time, I don't,
Well, we did start doing some stuff on the building, cause it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we did start in October.
yeah. I noticed you put a board up there in the window.
Yeah, we're having those windows replaced like they used to be,
Yeah.
the old train station, yeah.
It's actually that building right there above, right above you.
Yeah,
That
my
was
husband
moved up
told me
there.
that, Hugh Tukey moved that from the station.
Yes.
It was down, did you know that?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, we're excited about this.
yeah.
Yeah, we wanna try to bring it back.
We're
like
gonna try to
as
turn it into a
possible.
train station again.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And the woods at all.
Yeah. We got a, yeah, solar.
Oh, yeah.
Got a couple of there first week. Lucky.
So is that a good area up that way?
Seems to be so far. This year, I mean, I think this year, a lot of areas are doing really well. I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
see a lot
gotta
of
be
big
the
deal on
winds.
DNL's page and stuff, so.
We're glad we just got one today, did you see that one?
Yeah, I didn't read into it much, but it looked like it was a giant,
Yeah. The rack was huge, I don't know how big the deal was.
right? Was that local deal?
I don't know anything about that, I tried reading the comments and I didn't get much information.
He's not gonna give you any information on that.
Other than it was a 300 shot.
Yeah. Left-handed.
So we just waiting for the checklist.
Mhm.
So I printed out my
Oh.
own version, but, you can start with
Well, you
that.
know, I was gonna just kick it on to you, you can run the meeting on that. Alright, alright, thank you, Helen. I'm so
Right.
sorry about this. We're spoiled, with some other, applicant that comes here with. They have this applicant has a, particular outfit that basically take out ordinance and do all the work for them, you know, so they have everything all together, like magic, so. Anyways, we're here, we have our own magic, we have hands. So, applicant name, will be Lakeside Station. Yeah, that's the development that's gonna be used, but,
Owners. On-site holdings.
okay, sounds great, thank you.
This
There we go.
the site.
Thank you so much. And then, the name of the development is Lakeside Station.
Yeah. Nice.
And, we start with the application form. It's complete. Applicant agent authorization letter. We had, well, they're their own, it's not applicable, isn't it?
No, they are the owners.
They're the owners, it's not applicable. Copy of deed, option, sales agreement, lease, and all documentation of title right for interest.
We have that.
We have that, yeah, complete. Written waiver request. No applicable.
Question.
Copy of tax max property,
We have that as well.
complete. Copy of Kennebec, and, you know, this is gonna be very, boring, but we do this for the public. So we have to, I'll go through every item, bear with us. Copy of Kennebec, company soil map property.
Yep.
It's complete. Copy of the USGS topographic map showing properties, location,
Have that as well.
complete. Copy of Belgrade shoreline zoning map, showing property location.
That's not really out.
That's not applicable? Okay. So, NA, copy of flood insurance map showing property,
We have that.
complete. Copy of national wetlands inventory map showing property,
It's there.
complete. Copy of Maine Geological Survey significant land and gravel aquifer map showing property location.
It's not applicable, given what they're proposing.
NA. Copy of Maine drinking water program map of public drinking water supply showing property location.
It's not applicable.
NA. Copy of MNDOT highway entrance or access permit.
It's not applicable. It's in
NA.
access to a town road.
Copy of the MDOT traffic movement permit and traffic movement study. NA. Copies of the required state or local permits.
We have, Hans' approval of the septic system. And if I am correct, no state permits were required of folks, right?
So they're putting in, that's an application for a new septic system and, basically just internal plumbing changes when they're doing the red, that's LPI. That's,
It's complete.
yeah, it's complete.
24/36 site development plan drawn to scale showing at minimum the following. Scale, north arrow parcel boundaries, location and dimensions of existing and proposed buildings and structures. Drainage, structures, signs, fencing, exterior lights, location and extent of disturbed area. Layout and dimensions of impervious surfaces, parking, driveways, roads, outdoor storage areas of equipment inventory, dumpsters, other materials, locations of bulk storage of petroleum, hazardous substances, propane, utilities, drainage ways, easements, right of way, location of flood hazard areas, water courses, water bodies, and waterlands. Shoreline zoning districts, location of existing vegetation to be retained, location of vegetated buffers screened along public roads and property lines and around outdoor storage areas. Landscaping, location of wells and sources of water protection areas, a public drinking water supply, location of soil test pits and surface wastewater disposal system, other significant natural physical features, name, address of owner applicant, and name, address, license, number of stamp of professional engineer, surveyor, will prepare site plan. So that's complete.
I don't think so. I don't see it. I don't have it.
Or it's not
We
that
have
size.
We
Never
have
mind.
this drawing from the site evaluator, but was he in it, surveyor or engineer?
Was he an engineer?
He's an engineer.
They're certified by the state.
Yeah, it has to be certified by the state.
I'm sorry, what is it you're looking for?
The 24/36 site plan with all the information, sir, just.
Storage of petroleum product and so forth, that's not gonna be there.
That isn't, but drainage structures, exterior lights, signs. Where the inventory is gonna be kept. Any potential easements, any drainage ditches, all that is potentially relevant. Where the vegetation, existing vegetation is, that's relevant.
And that's required by an engineer.
It's required in the site plan by the ordinance. And the site plan, as in every other application we've received, is either stamped by a main professional engineer or main professional surveyor.
You have a survey?
For a change of use.
That's for all. Including change of use, yeah, anything that falls under the ordinance.
You have a survey for when you purchased it?
No,
I don't believe so. Because I was wondering if this could be made into a site plan because it looks like it might have been surveyed. It's got a scale, it's got a north arrow and all that.
I don't know. That's another question I could answer right now. Sorry.
Yeah,
Cause it's, a number of things that would be helpful for us to know. Because once we get into, when we're looking at whether your application meets the standards, performance standards in the ordinance, this is what we rely on to make that judgment.
But there are no drainage ditches. That's on the other side of the road. You lost me on that list there. I didn't keep up with it after I heard petroleum storage and knowing that they're not gonna be selling fertilizer, only chemicals. I kind of dismissed that one. An engineered site map as required for the ordinance in this change of use of a church to an office/showroom.
Well, if this was surveyed. like I said, I think it could be used as a base map for the site plan. Cause it,
That's Andy Morrow, right? Or was that?
No, the site map is way
Tim
more.
Wade Environmental Consulting.
Yeah,
That's why I asked if it was engineer.
I can text him.
Yeah.
That's something that you can
Well,
provide.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of information lacking from this drawing. I'm just saying, rather than going back to scratch, this might serve as a good basis for the site plan that's required by the ordinance. And it may be, as, Hans just pointed out, like, for example, if the drainage ditches, and you're not proposing any drainage, or there is no drainage ditches on the property, and the only drainage ditch is on the other side of the road, then we don't have to worry about that. It's just that we don't know what's on your property or not. I mean, obviously, there's vegetation, that needs to be shown, but things of that nature, where your exterior lights are gonna be, that kind of thing. Could we have to make judgments about how strong your lights are? Will they extend beyond the property line, et cetera, and we just can't do our job if we don't have the information on which to base our decisions.
Are you adding exterior lighting?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, just what's on the building or?
Yeah, there's a sign that's already there, obviously, that.
Yeah, but what's on?
But no, I mean, on the building, we might put some lights, but are you looking for we're not gonna be open.
You're not adding a post lamp in the parking lot,
Yeah, we probably will, I mean,
Yeah.
so
nothing, not
nothing obnoxious.
not like something you would see at Walmart, but, a nice granite.
Granite light post and
Yeah.
light, yeah.
Well, that's gonna need to be included in the site map, the type of light that's gonna be on the lumens. How it's directed down, the height, the whole.
I think that's why I answered a lot of those questions with whatever you guys tell us me to do, because
Yeah.
I'm definitely not up to snuff with what you folks need us. To, I'm sure, is there a book that we can go by to find out what we need to do?
Yeah, I mean, the ordinance, I realize it's about as dry as War and Peace, but, this list provides a lot of guidance. I know, I'm kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but like Penny pointed out earlier, you had mentioned that you would do what town required with regard to planting and vegetative screening. You should have seen something, a drawing like this that's guidance that was part of your application packet, because it's,
Didn't see it.
so something's wrong here.
Well, look,
The system broke down.
It took off the website,
I printed off the website, yeah, that's
Like
exactly what I
anybody
did.
in this room for anything that's not put on the website correctly.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that's something that if you talk to Hans, he could provide you. If you came to the town office, it would be in the packet that you would get.
Well, and then screening, this is another thing. It's a change of use for an existing building. You're gonna require them to go through a whole screening process now, adding screening?
Well, I mean, remember, let's how we get here, does this application and their proposal trigger the ordinance? The answer is yes. Does it require planning board approval or code enforcement approval? Because it's a switch from institutional to retail, the answer is planning board. So it has to meet all the standards of the ordinance, just like a new construction development. And, sign, screening, all those come into play. I mean, we don't have the authority to say, we don't feel like you have to require, meet this one or that one.
I mean, again, it's not a new application, it's a change of use.
Yeah,
Existing property, which has existing things.
yeah, and there are plenty of places where that's gonna be very relevant, very applicable. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying that it still has to meet the entire ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, so what I know about this property. Is there any space between the driveway and the road that isn't state land.
It's utility right away. But I'm,
With that,
it's primarily utility right away. And it's a what, slope grass, right?
well, it's a big bang,
It's a bank down.
Yeah.
and it's gotta be state property, I mean, right, so close to the edge of your.
It's gotta be close, the building's close to the road.
So I don't even know if there's any space in there, so if there isn't any space, then we can't force you to put screening. And
Did
state
you-
title,
DOT right away, no, that's absolutely correct, but that would be one of the things that the site plan should show, is where is the edge of the state DOT right of way? I mean, just by way of example of how we've handled this kind of a situation before, the old town office right up here, when that changed from the town office to that little retail shop that there's now. We went, we asked the same questions, do you have enough space to put a planting there to screen the structure from Route 27 and in that case, I guess it's somewhat similar to yours in that you have the Route 135 on the other side. Route 135 is nothing but asphalt right up to the building, but the DOT right of way goes partly into the building, I think. And so we were able to provide a waiver, but that waiver is something you're gonna have to request of us. We can't just willy-nilly hand it out. So there may be a number of things that you may wanna reconsider requesting a waiver on, and as we go through the checklist further, there's one other item at least that I'm thinking of that might be appropriate, but that has to do with the traffic flow, but
Got a question here.
that's the process, so.
So this is only a change of use?
Yep.
So doesn't this, the ordinance, we went through this, one application before where it was a change of use, and so it says at the beginning of the general instruction, says the permit application is only for permits issued by the Valley Planning Board. Small projects or expansions may only require a permit from the code enforcement officer. Number 2 says, a change of use of an existing non-residential use to a different non-residential use, except where the use will be industrial or retail, so it kicks into us because it's retail. Right?
Yeah, no, that's right from the ordinance.
And for its understanding, this ordinance reads like a spaghetti graph. I mean, the other person's gonna look at it and they don't know. And half the time I look at it and I'm like, well, that doesn't really apply. So.
Well, I mean, that's one reason why we have it boil it down into a checklist. It's a matter of looking at the checklist.
So, the more we finish this checklist, and then you have all in one bag, the things that have to be worked on.
That's
Okay. So, next page goes, detailed scale drawing showing location and construction specifications of drainage features, roads, sideways, access points, driveways, parking, traffic control features, fire control structures, and public improvements.
That one, I'm not sure is applicable because you're not planning any new construction of any of those types of structures, are you?
The only thing we have to, I guess, change is the ADA ramp out front and the stairs, but I don't know if that has anything to do with that.
Yeah, no, not that particular requirement, so I think that one's not applicable.
Documentation meets applicable state, federal air quality regulatory requirements. That's NA.
That's complete. Address that in the application.
Okay. Soil erosion control plan.
You're not proposing any earth moving, are you? That was the impression I got from the application.
Well, we
Just
septic, but
Yeah, other than that, I meant,
No.
No, and just minor landscaping stuff, it's
yeah, right, okay, yeah, I would say that's complete then. I'm sorry, not.
Q&A. Thank you. All right. NDP certified contractor name and number,
They do, they have that.
it's complete. Location, site, structure listed on National Register of Historical Places. NA,
Yes.
Do you call it? Is it a historical site?
That wasn't
it
on.
wasn't on the list.
Okay.
location of main historical preservation commission archaeological sites, NA.
When was that constructed?
It wasn't on it because it got moved in 1950, and that is now what they consider the building, because they gotta put on a new
Oh,
foundation.
okay,
So it was, I think, in late 1895.
okay, but it's the relocation that,
They changed it when it was it's now 1950, because they
Yeah.
put it on a new foundation.
because I know it's not on the list in our comprehensive plan.
It's old, I tell you that much.
Yeah.
Information needed to meet air quality standards,
That's been met.
complete. Information needed to meet access to public street standards,
So, I guess that depends, we'll need the site plan to determine that completely, but, one of the issues I wanted to raise for you, make sure you were aware of, is the ordinance requires, a minimum of 100 foot, from the intersection with Route 11. And I couldn't tell on this drawing whether you had 100 feet or not. If not, it would seem to me that might be, it may be something that, we might be able to grant a variance for because you have such low traffic number estimates. But we would need something to document that that won't be an issue. It could potentially come from DOT. It could, I was thinking that Wade Environmental Consulting was an engineer, so a letter from a professional engineer saying that in their professional judgment, there's not gonna be a traffic flow issue because of your low estimate of the number of vehicles per peak per hour. I don't remember now what it is, 3, I guess you said.
What needs to be 100 feet from?
Your access, your driveway access onto Station Road from Route.
From the right of way of that, is that what you
Not
said?
from the right of way, just from Route 11.
From.
Yeah, I can't tell how far it is on
It's
this.
close, but
I think we got.
I'm not sure,
Yeah,
I'm not sure on that.
so that's not complete yet. We'll need the site plan,
all right?
in my opinion.
Protection measures for historical and archaeological resources,
Well, that's an
NA. Estimated qualities of flammable, combustible, hazardous substance to be stored, handled, or generated, including waste oil and antifreeze.
That's complete in the application. There are none, but. I assume you're not gonna be storing large quantities of fertilizer because that's a hazardous material. No.
Evidence met NDEP's siting regulations for oil storage and hazardous substances facilities,
It's not applicable.
NA. Copy of application provided to fire chief by planning board or CEO.
It has been given to him, we have not had a response yet.
Okay.
It's-
Other information needed to meet material storage standard, including bulk storage of combustible and flammable materials and hazardous substances,
it's a-
NA. Visual impact visual impact assessment,
It's an
NA. Plan based on IF and W critical areas program recommendations to mitigate impact on natural areas and wild habitat, including deer winter areas.
NA.
NA. All the information needed to meet natural resource protection standard,
NA.
NA.
Oh, wait a minute, no, that's.
Is board required post-development noise monitoring and reporting plan? If required, mark, not applicable, that's NA, isn't it?
No noise.
No noise.
Nothing to mark.
NA. Information needed to meet noise standard, NA. Exterior, light plan and specifications for light features,
I didn't see anything.
so we don't do, they don't do any of that,
They're gonna need that in the lamp in the
so,
That could,
parking lot.
so we need that then. All
I
right?
mean, that could be part of the site plan.
Mhm. Is board requiring post-development light monitoring and reporting plan? NA,
We'll see,
okay. We're gonna wait on that one
probably
too.
not, but,
Information to meet parking standard,
we just got it today.
complete. Written statement of the fire chief on capacity for fire department to provide adequate protection. We're waiting to. Written, statement from the sheriff department approving any proposed security measures.
You know, and
It's not a mass gathering, right?
NA. All the information to meet pool safety and emergency services standard. NA,
It's not NA, the application is, pointed out earlier, says that they will meet this, what the town requires, so in other words, I interpret that to mean what the ordinance requires, and, even though I'm not sure you knew what you were agreeing to.
Yeah, we're just hoping you guys can tell us what we got
Uh,
from a lot of this stuff, so.
But there, as Craig pointed out earlier, there's an issue of, I mean, we don't, it obviously would be incredibly dumb and unreasonable to require you to do a planning in the DOT right away. They'll come along and who knows, cut it down, right? So that may be, like I mentioned earlier, maybe a topic to include in your waiver requests, list of waivers requests. Along the station road, to be honest with you, it's been so long since I've driven down there, I don't even know what I can't even visualize exactly what's there. I know there's some big trees,
Pavement and a
but
ditch, so there's not much planting to do there either. There's on the corner, we can do some planting, but
Yeah, we could do some, I mean,
yeah,
that's what we do, so.
we're gonna do a lot of planting anyway, so.
yeah, you see, maybe this is an extra that I can just give you.
I'm assuming it's just a vegetated buffer. like,
Yeah.
It's a certain amount of trees, a certain caliber we have to.
Yeah, this is something that the planning board approved a couple of years ago as guidance. I mean, guys are in the business, so, you know, this is probably nothing new to you,
Yeah.
it's just your standard. Pretty fundamental vegetative screening.
Is there like a certain amount of plants that you have to hit per footage, like most towns ask, or? Like if you have a planting buffer A has to be so many overstories, so many understories, so many shrubs.
No, we don't have that level of specificity. It's intended to be, trees,
Okay,
and native species. And alternating among the two rows. So it's your choice whether you want to use conifers or you want to use deciduous trees. Okay. Does that help?
I can do this, can I do this plan for you and?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
this does
I
not
mostly
come
want
from
to
a-
make sure you understand what you said you would do in your application.
That's us, correct?
Yeah, that's yours.
so this does not come from an architect, like,
No.
that can draw that myself.
Yeah,
Okay.
or
It's gonna be on a CAD.
or just, you know, when we get to that point. Just so you know what you're agreeing to, because in your application, like I said, that that's basically what you said you would do. Maybe you didn't know it.
Yeah, we'll probably do.
Well, so we'll- we have to do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the only question is, for me anyway, do you really need to do it along, is it reasonable for you to do it along the entire length of? You obviously, you don't wanna get too close to Route 11, you don't wanna be very close to your driveway, so you don't interfere with visibility. So is there anything left that it should be done for? And I guess we're relying on you to tell us.
It's already listed the large oak trees, so they already have trees in place. So. It may not even be required.
Yeah, or just supplement it a little bit.
we're gonna plant it anyway, so whatever. I'll make a planting plan for you, and you guys can tell me whether or not it's enough.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be enough.
Fair enough.
I think it's gonna be over what you need, yeah.
So I kind of lost the thread here, but I wanna go back where I left it. So other information to meet public safety and emergency services standard. So I don't know how we end up talking about buffers, but. So we're right here, Mr. Seal.
Yeah. Where are we now?
Yeah, like.
Oh, there,
right here. So that's an A.
I think that's a name.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then information to meet screening of structures, parking lots and other non-residential uses standard.
Yeah, that's sort of part and parcel with what we just discussed.
So we're waiting for that.
Yeah.
Right. To scale profile view of, proposed signs. NA,
Well, here's the thing. The ordinance in that location of town prohibits internally lit signs. Because it's not in a village district. What you have there now is the sign that the church put up,
The
which is an internally lit
sign, yeah.
changeable sign.
Yeah.
It doesn't even meet DOT regulations. Why DOT didn't follow up on it's beyond me, but because of the colors and the green and red colors and the kind of flashes and all that, it's more like something that belongs on Western Ave, but so what is allowed in the ordinance is an externally lit sign. Downward facing lighting. Or with a roof and lighting facing the sign. So that's the deal in terms of what the ordinance requires.
Okay. So
Now,
what about the ones that are on Route 11 that have upward facing lights,
yeah, if you have like a
that don't have?
hood. Over the sign, so the idea is to keep the light from going beyond the light pollution from going beyond the property line. And to the extent we can protect the night sky a little bit, that of course is kind of left the barn in central Maine, but.
Okay.
Does that sign have to come out then?
I'm sorry.
This sign will, we're gonna make a new sign. Yeah.
I wondered if that sign needed to come out, but he's gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, the electricals, we're gonna make a new sign anyway.
so we're gonna need a scale profile of the view of that sign, of the proposed sign. Are we gonna like a drawing, is that?
Yeah, I mean, just a sketch of what
A
it's gonna
sketch of it? What's it gonna
generally look like is fine from you
You don't
guys.
need the wording, but the size.
Yeah, the size, because there's a size.
Where the light is.
Size standard, why don't you go ahead and I'll,
Other information to meet sign standard.
yeah, but there's a square footage.
It's 32.
Oh, okay, very good.
32 square feet,
Yeah, and,
okay?
and their location is on the comprehensive plan for future to be a growth area. So
That is,
it is, so
Really?
if the comprehensive plan is approved in March, they will be approved for an internally lit sign.
Hmm?
yeah, if they wanna wait, they can just submit a letter there and amend the application.
Okay. If we back up just a little bit, I'm looking at the access to state roads. I see nothing about 100 feet from the state road for an entrance. And it says when the development will access a state road, well, this is not a development, this is an existing property. getting a traffic study, I think is
So
outside the
we're,
scope of the
we're in
ordinance.
section 2, access to public streets, access to town ways, which starts on page 22. They have, less than 6 vehicles, in a peak hour, so they're low volume. Spacing standards on page 24, no low or medium volume access point shall be located within 100 feet of any street intersection.
Okay, so it's not because it's a state road.
Right,
All right, I was looking at the state roads, the section below there.
yeah, no, I mean, they're. I am correct, aren't I? That's town road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Station road.
yeah, okay, that's what I thought, I know it peters out. Once you get down towards railroad tracks, but.
Goes to Camp Road. Continues as a Camp Road.
So a pre-existing driveway needs to be relocated? That will
No, what I'm suggesting is, that they, given the low volume of traffic, that they use that as the basis for a waiver request to that 100-foot setback if they don't already have it. I don't know what they have for a setback from, because I can't tell from this drawing, but you may have 100 feet. I don't know. I just can't tell. I mean, if we had a site plan, I would tell you right off the top of my head.
How about this one? Kind of a kind of soil to be helping in because it gives the, keeps
I don't know. Do you guys know? Or that,
I don't, I mean.
I mean,
we're
it
gonna
looks
have
like
do a
it might be
site plan
close to
anyway,
100
so
feet.
it's not really worth.
I mean, this says 15. Looks like it's at least 75.
I mean, if it's not, it's not, we'll ask for a waiver, if it can't be happening, we'll put a new driveway in, I mean, we're knee deep into it now, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, what I'm suggesting is, and this is sort of where I agree with Hans, that because this is in place. And the fact of the matter is, you're probably generating less traffic than the church did in terms of peak hour. That you write that up as part of your waiver request. I will say on the record that I would personally look favorably on that. Because it's an existing, rather than requiring you to move it. Yeah, but because you're the key is that you have such low estimated, peak traffic volume.
Right.
Versus the church would not have much, but during the week and then all of a sudden, boom, we have a whole bunch of people.
Okay, stormwater management plan. We have that.
I'm sorry, where are you?
We are, in page 36. Stormwater management plan.
Oh.
You're not developing the site, so.
NA,
Yeah,
it's, I think it's a previous person.
this is a copy of DEP stormwater management permit. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, Hans, I disagree with you. They do need to meet the standard that stormwater be retained on the site. I can't remember now what's in the application, in terms of the amount. I think the amount of impervious surface was left blank. So I don't know what the answer to that question is. They may be under the threshold where a stormwater management plan is required. But again, that was left blank in the
What
application.
was that threshold? That was
I think it's 7,500 square feet.
7,500 square feet. So you're gonna measure your building in your parking lot, If you're under 7,500 square feet. You know, you're on.
Yeah, and I don't remember the number of the question in the application, but put that number there. You know, hopefully it's under 7,500, which case no stormwater management plans required.
You'd have to have a stormwater management plan on an existing building.
And
That you're
this,
not changing?
and only, again, this is sort of the same issue as before, only because you've triggered the requirement for getting a permit under this ordinance. If that went from church to church and it didn't trigger the ordinance, the answer to your question would be no.
It doesn't change the rain though, when it's a church.
It doesn't change the rate, no, exactly, it's all about the legalities of it,
Okay,
sorry.
cause that could be expensive, to be honest with you, but.
I mean, even if it. You were,
Does that-
let's say for. Running this through the course, we're over 7,500. That plan could consist of nothing more than, along the edge of the, building, putting in a, infiltration drip line. Crushed stone.
Drip edge.
Yeah,
And rely on, again, I'm not familiar with the law, but you know, if there's some natural vegetation, not lawn, but shrubby, woody vegetation between you and on the downslope side, that probably will do it.
Okay.
So the whole concept is to infiltrate that on the property into the ground rather than letting it run off. You particularly have an advantage since the drainage ditch is on the other side of the road.
but I think you're pretty close to being under.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you're under just
The
looking
building,
at it.
The building's about 1,200. About, yeah, I would say it's a little over, but it's like 60 by 20.
so that's 5,000 in your parking lot.
The parking lot is.
Oh, wait, those all should be on that. It should be on that sketch that we did, I think. That was the scale,
Yeah.
Oh, this one,
that is the scale, yes.
Yeah.
21 by 72, so that's
The
1,400 square
parking lot's
feet.
not there. And that's, yeah, it's, yeah. Seventy and.
You grab this away, grab it in.
Yeah, you come with a, you might have 5,000 on the parking lot. How much did you have on
The building?
1,200, 14,
No, it's 1,500.
15, so
There's
there's
a 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. 40 by 70, there's 2,800 there, and then you have your trapezoid, so yeah, I'm.
pretty certain.
Yeah, close, you're probably under.
I can measure it.
Yeah, if you could just measure it and then, because there is a specific question asking for that.
Yeah.
Measurement on your application and take it from there. Hopefully it's under 7,500.
Yeah.
All right. So, all information to meet, storm, management standard. That's still waiting, depending on what happened with the plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Surface, subsurface waste disposal site evaluation form,
We have that.
complete. Other information to meet waste standard,
Get that as well.
complete. Groundwater quality and quantity impact assessment,
It's not.
NA.
Yep.
Copy of deed restrictions related to drinking water and groundwater protection,
That's it.
NA. Copy of main drinking water program, public water supply approval and source water protection plan,
It's an A.
NA. Copy of MEDP, NDEP stormwater management permit,
That's an A.
NA. Phosphorus export control method. The parking is asphalt.
Yeah, I think that'll be addressed once we know the stormwater issue with.
Okay. All the information to meet water quality standard,
That's
saying
blank
that
at this point
Right.
too, because of the phosphorus export.
supplemental site plan requirements for mineral extraction operations, NA.
Yeah, no, everything else is in it.
Yeah, 5-year mining, reclaim plan, NA, mineral extraction, NA. Hydrogeological study of groundwater movement, NA, region extraction. Processing for full agreement of, with a water, NA, reclamation plan, reclamation plan for extraction, NA, design operation details, NA, all information to meet mineral extraction, NA, information to meet overnight accommodations, NA, visual impact assessment of telecommunication tower, NA, main register professional engineer certification for telecommunication tower, NA, all information to meet the telecommunication tower standards, NA, visual impact assessment for wind turbine, NA, impact study on wind turbine, NA, identification roads to be used for, turbine transport, NA, hiring engineer by town, at the applicant's expense, to document road conditions prior to use and damage after use. NA. Emergency response plan during equipment transport, NA. Turbine general liability certificate, NA. So that said, we have few items that we have to work on, so we cannot deem the application complete. But what I will suggest to have them hands copy this checklist, because I make big circles next to what we gotta complete. So that will be kind of, the circles will be your checklist,
Okay.
all right? This is exciting. This project is exciting, so I wish you guys the best with it.
Thank you.
That's that.
You guys aren't somehow associated with Lakeside, are you?
We're the owners of Lakeside.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Actually, you've been through this process before because you got a permit under this ordinance back when.
It was not the same planning board.
No, it wasn't
It
the
was,
same planning board, and the ordinance changed.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2007 and honestly, my father-in-law is an architect, so he set it up for us. But he's now retired. And, so we're the architects. So he set up, he used to, he worked at the, hospital in Belfast for them all the time. So he went in front of the planning board every day. So he set it all up. We came in, they looked at it and said, this looks awesome. And we were done. So,
Yeah.
it's a little bit different this time.
Yeah, I suspect it's more than a little different.
Yeah, yeah, he had full drawings for us with everything. So
Oh,
it was a
okay,
little-
so,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Is he still around?
He's retired, yeah.
That sounds like he's made that
Yeah,
clear.
he's made that clear already. He's retired, so.
I mean, Florida.
No, he's still in Belfast, but he doesn't, he got rid of all of his stuff and he's not doing it anymore.
No exceptions, huh?
I've asked.
Does he have a lawn to cut, you know?
Huh?
Does he have a lawn at home to cut? Then, you know, he would
Yeah,
do it for him?
I could, but I think I'm been married to his daughter for 18 years, so I think we're past the big, the quick flow part of it. It's just come through my lawn. All right, cool. So we'll try to get, what's the next step then? If we get everything in order, we do the same thing again and then. It steps us back to planning board meeting basically.
That's right.
Okay.
When you come back, we need that complete. And then we have 2 week, a period waiting, because we're gonna send notices to the abutters.
Yeah,
And then you come back and then we go through the finding of facts.
okay.
And usually a finding of fact is very straightforward. So you
You
will
think
be,
this was boring? You haven't seen anything yet.
So should we have it ready for the next meeting or are we gonna be bumped a meeting? Like, when should we have it ready for?
Well, depends on your site plan, you gonna hire a surveyor? But then
I'm gonna call Tim and see if he is. I think he is an engineer by trade, but I don't know if he has a stamp, so.
Okay,
We need to do a new survey, is that what you're saying? I mean, there's pins with problem.
Oh, well, I mean, if this was done by our surveyor. I would just, get them to add the additional information that we
That you're
went through.
Yeah.
Because. There's no point starting from scratch if that, because this looks to me like it was surveyed.
He might have a surveyor that he works with, so I don't know. He
Because this is a pretty good,
but typically these guys, if they're certified for site evaluation, they're not engineers.
no, I know that, but I mean, his name of his firm is Environmental Consulting, and so. That it kind of implies an engineer or something, and. You'll just have to check, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just speculating.
Alright. That's it?
that's it.
Alright.
Just let me know what you come up with for scheduling purposes.
Yeah, I think with the holiday it might be tough, but, because you said 2 weeks from now, so on the next one.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get him to do it, but if not, we'll bump to the next time.
I'll let you know next week.
And let me know, cause if you can't, I'm gonna try to move somebody from the meeting after that up,
Okay,
and that'll open a spot for you. And
as
that-
far as like exterior lights on the building, are we showing that, how are we showing, how we,
There are any number of ways that could be shown. I mean, it could be shown
On your site.
on this drawing, it could, or you could, some people have submitted and we've accepted, the manufacturer's specs for the lighting, and just show where on the building they'll be. And whether or not it will put out enough aluminum so that it goes past the property line, because that's really our only concern with regarding the lights, is that the
Okay.
light not impact neighbors.
sure,
I mean, you have a residence downhill from you, but your other business across the street. I can't remember what's further down towards Oakland, but,
House of the Woods.
there's a house through the woods on both sides.
oh, is there? Okay, I couldn't
The
remember,
old,
if
the
it was
old
just a
pastor's
field or
house
what it
across the
was.
street.
Take a photograph, get a hard copy and then fit in the dimension of this sign where it is. On the building, on the photograph. Going,
Just show where everything is.
yeah,
Okay,
good start, place to start.
we can do that.
Yeah.
Try our best. Alright, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, on.
You're welcome. If you need a copy, Lord, it's on the website, under the planning board.
Thanks. Can't wait to read it.
Great reading. Good stuff.
All right, so next item in our agenda tonight is draft ordinance changes for accessory building applications. And this this goes around to what a lawyer said to us, isn't it?
Scott really did that.
I'm sorry.
For a land that, all erosion, all.
So you may recall, this is something we approved back in August. We,
Can't lose that, sorry.
no problem. And we brought it to the select board, asking them to review it and
Okay, yeah,
put it on the,
yeah, sorry, yeah.
you know, on the ballot for November.
Mhm.
They asked us to wait until March.
Mhm.
And so this is something, I just put this in, or asked Hans to put it in, just as a reminder that we had this, you know, kind of hanging out. And something that we needed, it's no action that we need, it's just other than whatever we decide on the issues related to the Supreme Court case. At a minimum, this needs to go back to the select board.
Okay. So that was just basically a reminder. And we're moving to item D. AG response to Steph versus Belgrade. Didn't this came out like?
Well, this other. I mean, I think, we need to discuss, based on our discussion with the attorney. How we want to proceed moving forward, and I think that's, you know. Entails both C and D.
Okay,
In my view, you'll find in your packet, that. So, in the event that the board would like to proceed with some kind of ordinance amendment to address the, Supreme Court, just, new creation, basically of new law, as far as I'm concerned. I've just for discussion purposes, I drafted up a few ideas, and that's also in your packet, and that's the second draft ordinance amendment, which is entitled Belgrade Shoreline Ordinance Amendments to address Stiff versus Town of Belgrade. And, you know, I think it might be helpful to hear what everybody has to say based on their takeaways from the presentation by the attorney. I know, Pete, you weren't here for that, but I believe all the rest of us were. You know, really the question comes down to, do we kind of just muddle along with, based on, you know, what the attorney told us, which I personally would not feel very comfortable with, without more detail in the ordinance. Partly because I think I could figure out what is and is not an accessory structure at this point. Even though we don't have any clear definition in the ordinance, or not a very clear definition, because it's sort of you know, if it quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, it's a duck kind of definition that they came up with. But what is really unclear to me is, so what? So what if it is not an accessory structure and it's a second principal structure? There's nothing in the ordinance that I can find, and that anybody, including Bill, has been able to point out, or that the memo from the Attorney General's office points out, that says where in chapter 1000 or in our ordinance, two principal structures are more than one principal structure prohibited on a lot as long as all the other requirements of the ordinance are met, like setback from the normal high water, property line setbacks, road setbacks, the height restrictions, all those things that we always deal with. And the implication in the court decision, one of the takeaways I got from the discussion with Phil was, with Phil Softer, the town attorney, was that the court had basically made up new law saying, and maybe I got the wrong end of the stick, but new law saying that we handle a permanent, a principal structure the same way we would a second residential dwelling unit, and require an additional 40,000 square feet of lot size. If that's the case, then it seems to me we need something in the ordinance that says that, and that's what I've attempted to do.
Can you repeat that? Oh, I'm sorry.
What about the part that says you can't cook? That's not in the ordinance either, is it?
Yes, it is.
Well, that's the conundrum, because, and that's why we thought we were doing it at the time. I mean, it's clear to me now, reading the court decision, that yes, we made a mistake in terms of calling that an accessory dwelling, an accessory structure, but like I said, so what? So what if we made that mistake? Because we did put that condition in, and we shouldn't really be talking about the specifics of that case, because it's gonna be coming back to us probably for with another permit application, but you know, let's just say, you know, a case similar to that where you have a principal structure in existence, and then you have a second structure that's being proposed, and you have to decide, the planning board has to decide, is this a principal structure or an accessory structure? If we decide it's a second principal structure, okay, but what's that mean? You know, in that, you know, if we place a condition on it that says you can't have a kitchen and you can't do any cooking there, that eliminates it as a residential dwelling unit. The lot size requirement in the ordinance as written today it says that for every residential dwelling unit, you need 40,000 square feet of lot area in the shoreline zone. There's nothing that even comes close to talking about resident, you know, how much lot area you need for each residential principal structure. Part of the confusion, I think, comes from that when you go to further down that same page about lot areas required for commercial structures, talks about the number of principal commercial structures rather than, you know, dwelling units, because dwelling unit isn't really relevant. So that's my take on it. I'm sure others, you know, maybe understood differently or
Can
was
you,
able to were more perceptive than I
can
was.
you repeat what, you said before Mrs. Morel asked about the cooking, you know, aspect of the secondary of the accessory structure? You mentioned something about, the secondary structure needing another 40,000 square feet?
Yeah, so the
I thought the secondary structure can be built in the same lot. I mean,
Accessory,
accessory to
yeah,
structure.
but it says a second principal needs meet the dimensional requirements,
Yeah,
which would be 40,000 square feet.
yeah, because it's another principal
However-
structure, yeah.
What we can add to our ordinance, and I've seen this in other towns, is that the second principal structure must be positioned in a way that would create two conforming lots if subdivided. So
Yeah.
each principal structure,
Has 40,000 square feet,
it has to have 200 feet of waterfront.
yeah.
You know, and meet, and because it says within shoreline zone.
Hmm.
So if you have somebody with a large lot, even say this one, which is non-conforming waterfront. It doesn't really, but it's kind of pie shaped, but if the second structure was 250 feet back. it's not in shoreline zone. But it would be on, I mean. So you can subdivide it and still have two separate parcels, two conforming lots.
That would be a pretty rare circumstance, wouldn't it?
In this town, yeah, but, you know, we're talking about moving forward, so if we were gonna allow. A second one, it should be able to be positioned on a lot to be a conforming if subdivided.
Yeah,
But if it's
I
accessory-
hadn't thought about that approach.
If it's an accessory dwelling, it can't be duplicative of the original.
That's right. So
That's
in my
right.
mind, I had this all figured out. It's almost too easy for me, I think. So, basically, we have to create sort of a chart that the basic structure that can be constructed is a bunkhouse without any plumbing.
Well,
That's the basic. If we have, if the principal structure is one bedroom, one bathroom, and that's it. So we can put as an accessory structure, maybe a garage with one bed and no problem, that's it. To be able to stay away from the courts. But if the principal structure is a mansion with 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, well, then you can, you can add few beds in your garage and probably bathroom, because you have 2 or 3 or 2.5 in the principal one.
Well, that's why I can't, rule out. I don't know.
no,
But
I don't think I'm on board with ruling out plumbing,
no, you can't,
because
because it's legal to have a detached bedroom, which is a new definition. In the subsurface wastewater code that. Basically a bunkhouse, you add plumbing, well, that's it, now it becomes a detached bedroom. It's,
so how then we don't, because we're not supposed to duplicate the primary structure.
and that's where size matters,
you know,
about the size. And how do we correct this when it comes back to us? Do we make them demo the kitchen?
Well,
What this-
I don't think we should be talking about that because. You know, we don't want to prejudice the record, if you will. I mean, we get plenty of applications. That. Are for. What we've considered in the past accessory dwellings. And. Dealt with in the same way as we dealt with that particular application by placing that condition on it that ensures that they didn't exceed the lot area by ensuring what didn't meet the definition of a residential dwelling unit with that condition of no cooking.
But then the other thing is that here, it's tradition and it's common that you have a little camp. And then you will build a mega garage next to the camp with, bunk beds in there. So we cannot replicate the primary structure. I guess we cannot make it bigger than the primary structure. So that's restricting people on how they want to use their land.
Well, and
So
you know,
so then the bunk, for me, in my head, make the biggest garage you want, but just no plumbing, and then. It's almost like a balance out to the other side, the structure is bigger, the accessory structure is bigger than the primary, but we don't have any plumbing. So we don't replicate it. So we balance in one way or the other, is what I'm trying to say, that's why I was saying, no plumbing. That's kind of the basic outlet. If you wanna have a big garage,
that could be an option,
yeah.
but, you can't include it in everything. So if somebody wanted to come in and apply for a big garage, then we could say, well, you know, where your garage is above this, similar to the size of the principal structure, then you can't have plumbing.
And
Yeah,
that's where I'm going with it, yeah,
but
it's the
we
same
can't-
thing,
I don't want to say that every place can't have plumbing.
I
because-
agree,
So
I agree.
we should be able to have that option,
Mm-hmm,
but
If this,
The people building should be able to have that option and choose what they wanna do, or the downsize and have plumbing. Or
agree,
build a big garage, which they should be able to have a big garage as well.
But-
If
but
it's
it-
all legal by the standards and the square footage and whatever. They should be able to build a big garage.
but if it is a big garage is bigger than the principal structure, then no plumbing. Cause that's the only way we're gonna stay away from
Right,
liability.
see, I would agree with something like that.
Yeah.
But
But it is
still have the option available for somebody that wanted to build something smaller.
smaller, then you compare how many bathrooms you have in the principal and we have to go at least one down from
So
what.
how
the
do we
principal
work
have.
that?
Make it tight, we're making a table, my mind.
One of the things the court relied upon, as you've been discussing, was the floor area size of the proposed structure versus the existing structure. In that particular case, they were very close. The new structure wasn't larger, but it was slightly smaller. It was like 97% of the floor area of the existing structure. One way to deal with that and deal with it on a consistent basis, rather than having to worry about all these other contingencies, would be to say, okay, an accessory, if it's gonna be an accessory structure, it definitely has to be smaller in floor area than the original main structure. And we could come up with, as I suggested, some percentage, It could be a large percentage, 75%, could be a small percentage. I mean, it kind of depends, you were saying, if people want to have a two-story, a garage with a living unit on top, a bedroom on top or whatever, how big is that? That maybe we want to go with something like 75% of the original principal structure. That would be a nice clean way to deal with it. Whether it works in most circumstances, I guess it's something worth debating, but.
But in shoreline zone, don't we just deal with footprint and height? So why are we talking floor area?
Because that's what the court used as their metric.
Yeah, and the court also said they connected the buildings with a.
Well, and Phil told us to ignore that.
So how much else do we ignore?
I don't know, I'm not town's attorney.
See, I don't see why set judges is determining our laws. When they really don't know what the hell they're talking about. They could have two lawyers or a couple lawyers bickering back and forth. And they have to make a decision. So they're really not that well informed about it as far as, and they don't inform us very much.
So,
Kind of
so
disappointed in that whole thing.
I feel for you and I feel with you on it. But this is the thing, it's just like this LD 2003. It's like we had a choice, we either made the goal line or we didn't. And I know that after we wrap it all up, other towns just sit back and didn't do it, but to our favor, we don't have to sweat it. Other towns are sweating it right now. So that said, what the decision is, we cannot do anything about it. We just have to live with it. We had the lawyer come in 2 weeks ago. He told us how to navigate it. So.
Well, they didn't really tell us to navigate it.
No, I think this memo from the AG is more important than that.
They didn't have any answers, basically.
Don't you feel like this memo from the Attorney General is more relevant than what Phil said?
It should be.
It's not unsimilar to what Phil said but very narrow in scope. It only deals with one of the two main questions, as far as I'm concerned, that is, what's an accessory structure? It doesn't deal with, okay, what happens? Why is two principal structures on the same parcel in the shoreline zone prohibited?
Oh, come on, George. We went through this with the ADU ordinance. Septic. How dense are you gonna put septic systems on?
Well, yeah, the court decision didn't even deal with that. I mean, they implied that it had to do with lot size.
So, can we try to focus put our minds in what we got from the lawyer first, and at least jot down something in black and white?
I think you better focus on the attorney general, because he's the one with the enforcement, and our lawyer has approved ordinances like the mooring one in the past, which is totally unenforceable.
Well, I think if we put in black and white what the lawyer said, we can put that in the language of the ordinance, and we can keep working with applications. I had not put too much mind into what the AG has said, because at least, to me, it's just a picture of it. But when the applicant comes here, oh, I wanna put a bathroom, I wanna put, 10 bedrooms, I wanna do it, a mega garage, we say, okay, wait a second, you wanna put a mega garage, but there's no plumbing, if it's mega, it's bigger than the, principal, so we're steering the applicant and passing his application and getting his permit. What the AG, I'm sorry, I didn't got deep into the opinion of the AG here, but I guess from what you said quickly, I think you had it wrapped up, what to do to comply with the AG. You said that, well, we're gonna put this in the ordinance, and if we have two structures, we'll make it so they're separate enough, so that.
That didn't come from the attorney general.
No, but that was your
That was
solution to
my,
it.
for George, you know, he was perplexed about how do we do this, allow two on one lot without allowing them to be side by side.
Yeah, and that was what Attorney General was talking about.
So that's why I'm saying, make them be, if they're gonna be positioned on a lot, make them be in a position that they can be two conforming lots if separated.
So in my mind, that is, that will be, as George says, very unique situation. And what you're suggesting will be a great solution to put in the ordinance. So I'm not too concerned about that, because
Yeah, it's kind of a roadblock.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a option worth considering. I mean, what's in the board packet and I had, put together is a considerably less stringent option. And in that it doesn't, it doesn't require it to be able to be subdivided into a completely new lot. It only requires that they have another 40,000 square feet of lot area in the shoreland zone on that particular lot. So that's, in my mind, less stringent than what Hans is suggesting and less rigorous.
And we need to apply this to the minimum lot size too. Keep that in the side of your head.
And why is that?
For the same exact reason, if you got somebody that has 40 acres and they're putting a house and a house and a house, because they have enough land to dimensionally. You know, to meet the dimensional requirements, but in the future. The next generation wants to subdivide that, now you're gonna have a whole bunch of non-conforming lots, because you can't. Make conforming lots if they didn't position the houses in a manner. That they could be future conforming lots.
So, Hans, are you interpreting this court decision to apply to the various municipal minimum lot size ordinances as well?
No,
I'm sorry.
I lost you too.
I'm sorry, you lost me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that. Concept of when you have a second principal structure on one lot. Meeting the dimensional requirements. The second principal structure should be positioned on the lot where future subdivision would allow it to be a conforming lot. If they slice it up in the future.
But those are now D 2000, not in the shoreline zone, but
I think both. I mean, we're talking about it now in shoreline zone, but I think it should also apply to our minimum lot size. Because there's places right now in this town where people are just building houses because they got 40 acres, but
But
if
isn't
they
that-
haven't divided it. They're
Isn't,
not,
wouldn't that be legal now with the LD 2003?
that's dealing with accessory structures, not principal structures.
So I guess we have more questions than answers in
Let's
this
just
whole
say
thing.
this table is big enough to handle 4 houses and you build all 4 over here. And in the future, you wanna sell them all off, well, now you got a bunch of non-conforming lots. That you've allowed to be created. If we're gonna approve them to build 4 principal structures, it should be, because the houses should be. Positioned where. In the future, when you carve them up, you're gonna have. Properly conforming lots.
So,
Maybe we should solve one problem at a time.
that's what I'm trying,
Well,
that's,
The same thing concept applies to the shoreline zone, like. If somebody has. Like this one here has 125 feet of shoreline, we're gonna allow them to build 2 principal structures just because they might have 3 acres in the backside.
but do we see that all the time, Pams? That's what I'm getting at. Do we see it every day? What we see every day here is, people wanna do an extra bed or whatever, to put a bunkhouse or something like that, and that's what I'm trying to gel and have the board come to, agreement in terms of how we're gonna tackle that. And it doesn't mean that we don't wanna do that, but at least for tonight, what, what is the bread and butter of the applications? Can we, you and I were, Craig and I were going steering in an agreement session with that the basic structure will be a accessory structure that is bigger than the principal. And we're gonna call it a bunkhouse. It's much bigger than the principal, it's a bunkhouse and no plumbing. And that's what you get. That's like a premise. I don't know how to phrase it in words yet, but that will be the premise. That'll be the bottom premise. And then if the both structures are about similar in size, then maybe we're looking at the number of bathrooms in the principal. And then we knock off 1 or 2 going into the accessory. That was the sense that I got from Phil, that we cannot duplicate, but we can kind of replicate the smaller size. And the idea of having a percentage from the original structure is just, in my mind anyways, confines the applicant on how big the structure can be. But if we said this, you have to be some percentage smaller in order to knock down so many bathrooms or bedrooms, so they can have that compared to the principal. That was the sense that I got from Phil, that it was a balance act, making sure that we were not replicating the principal. And, in the best kind, that secondary structure, accessory structure, have to be smaller than the principal.
So remember that the court, and I have in the revised definition of accessory structure, just lifted the language right from the court decision, that an accessory structure, given its, and I quote, given its size, design, and purposes, it complements but does not duplicate or exceed the capacity of the uses or functions of the principal structure. And in terms of size, as we've already discussed, it cannot be approximating the size of the original principal structure, the structure that's already there. So you cannot have an accessory structure And it be an accessory structure if it's larger than the principal structure. Just based on size,
And that
Doesn't
has
matter
nothing
what's
to
in
do
it.
with the 4,500 square feet. Right, because they own the lot and they can have an accessory structure on it.
I
As
mean, I
long
think.
as it's smaller and not duplicative.
Yeah, and I mean, I think right now, at the moment, we have two proposals in front of us, and there probably may be others, but Hans has made one that, you know, is pretty conservative and stringent. And it has to do with, you know, future subdivision of the property.
Mhm.
And then the one that I wrote up is less stringent. And only relies on lot size.
Well, I think we're talking about two different things too. Mine was if allowed, big enough to allow two principal structures in meeting dimensional requirements. We had that the positioning
Oh, okay.
be such that
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
you're talking about addressing. You know, if it isn't large enough, the accessory structure, you know, 75%, whatever you come up with. And no kitchen implements period, including cabinetry. I mean, it's the cat and mouse game, you know, somebody's gonna put kitchen cabinets up and say, well, that's for my workshop. I'm storing tools and nails and screws up there and working on these counters. I got a utility sink.
And it's not enforceable, you cannot be, checking on people's, inside, properties all the time, so.
I mean, it seems to me the only thing we can do is, if we're gonna do an amendment to the ordinance, write it as well as we can, so that. To the maximum extent as possible, you're able to enforce it when you start playing whack-a-mole with various people.
So where we go from here, guys?
I mean, I don't know if people. Think what I've suggested is in the right direction,
I
And
think
if
it is.
not, you know, what a good alternative is.
Well, I think, a percentage thing is good, because what it does is it puts a formula into the application. Which takes away somebody saying that we're being arbitrary in what we allow people to do,
Okay,
because. If we say, you know, it's, well. Whatever, you know. An existing barn gets converted. And it's bigger, or, you know, I mean, anyway, I think that a number. Takes away it being arbitrary.
I think we gotta consider, you know, we don't wanna get sued individually, I'm talking board members. We don't wanna get in a position where we're gonna get sued. And if we come up with definitive numbers. The chances of us getting sued, you know, is a lot less,
I don't think they can sue us.
No, they can't.
huh?
They can't sue us.
Well. See, if someone wants to sue us, they'll sue us and we gotta go, you know, we have to go get a lawyer,
individually, no,
huh?
we're volunteers here. What do you-
No, I don't care, people will sue.
I'm not,
And when you
I'm not
get sued,
concerned
you
about
have to
that.
go get an attorney, then you go to court. All right, and you find out, okay, they couldn't sue us, all right, but meanwhile, you have to go to court, you have to get an attorney.
There's
So
gonna
you
be
make it-
bylaws,
Well, I'm just saying, it happens,
because why would anybody volunteer?
I know,
Um,
well, okay, I'm just saying, so if we have a choice, if we're definitive. Like, Hans is saying, it just lessens that kind of risk.
So, yeah, so going with a percentage will be a good idea, definitely.
well, the only thing that kills me about that is someone has a tiny little camp and they got all this land.
I know,
And so if they have a 20 by 24 camp, they can only put up a 10 by or a 12 by something accessory building, not even a garage. Can't even fit a car in it.
But which one will they really be living in?
Yeah, but if that's the thing, if we put a percentage on it,
Well, the little camp can lose the kitchen and be their daytime activity place, and they're gonna live in the big one, cook in the big one, I mean. It's not for us to figure out how they're gonna live.
well, it is up to us to allow them to have what they can for their properties. They do pay taxes in this town, and this is what drives this whole fucking town.
So that would, I mean, that's a good point, cause we, you know, I mean, obviously they'd probably be able to put up a woodshed or something of that nature, or little storage shed for their boating supplies, but maybe that argues for having a larger percentage, like 75% rather than 50%.
Well, I'm good with 75, and I've thought about that scenario many times, because. All right, but let's break it down, if somebody is gonna build something new in the back and they want it equal size or bigger, it's gonna be behind a 100-foot setback.
Right.
And they're gonna build it with modern features, if they got a little tiny camp. And they're gonna build something new. Basically, they're gonna flip the roles. The new one's gonna become the principal, and the other one has to be the accessory.
I mean, I certainly can't remember all the applications we've gotten, where we've gotten, where it was a, you know, small, traditional, true camp, not a friggin' house. And, the 2 or 3 that I can remember were all on thumbnail sized lots. That, you know, they're not gonna certainly have the room for a second principal structure, and they're gonna run into the potentially run into the 20% rule. But your point is well taken, Craig. My reaction would be that argues for a larger percentage than a smaller percentage. So that if somebody had 1,000 square foot old, you know, cedar camp, you know, 20 feet from the water, which is one of the ones that I'm recalling, and you know, they could have a 750 square foot building if they got enough land. Assuming it's 1 story. I mean, like, it would have to be 100 feet back though, and the question is, do they have 100 feet?
Well,
So
A lot of them don't, but
the 75% of what, floor?
floor, you know,
Floor
'cause that's
area.
what the court. I mean, I don't, you know, that's not my idea, I'm just going by how the court did it.
Yeah, I know, I get that,
I mean, to a certain extent, it makes sense, particularly in that specific case. Because you had a multi-story building. That had a large footprint.
I would probably consider something 75%.
So we are, you know, we have an agreement on the 75% for sure.
It can go higher.
yeah, let's just duplicate the original.
What did we say?
Well, you could go to 95%.
Well, that's the problem, we were at 95 already.
Yeah, we know how that went.
We can go, we can go 90%. I mean, yeah.
I mean, you know, the fact of the matter is, myself, Craig, you weren't on the board during the jump, were you? Oh, you were, okay, so and Rich are the only ones that get blamed in this.
Oh.
Actually, I don't view it that way, but
So
I don't hear
I got a scenario for you.
Lauren decide.
Let's just say this lot. 125 feet on the water, so it's non-conforming. But it goes back 400 feet. They go behind the 250 and build an 80
They can
by
do what they want to do.
40. Still a non-conforming shoreline zone lot. Right,
Right, but they can still go, they can do what they want back there.
but yeah, once they're out of shoreline zone, they can just build Taj Mahal.
I believe so.
Oh, yeah.
I believe
I'm gonna
so.
do that one of these days.
Under this ordinance, I mean, then the minimum lot size and other, would come into play possibly, but not under the shoreline zoning. Yeah, they're out of our jurisdiction.
No. It's still a non-conforming shoreline zone lot, so it'd have to come here for you all to have oversight.
What do you say that way?
If a lot is a non-conforming shoreline zone lot.
Yeah, and it's 400 feet deep,
Yep,
and they're gonna build, they wanna build something 250 feet back.
yep,
You still have to come to shoreline zone,
the planning board.
the planning board?
It's a non-conforming shoreline zone lot, already has one principal structure.
Alright, but, yeah, one principal structure,
So the lot is the standard for coming before the ordinance.
yeah, but
It's a
but
non-conforming lot.
why would, if you're building something 250 feet back, why do you have to come? Because it's a shoreline, you're not building a shoreline. Shoreline's only.
But they're building it on a shoreline zone lot.
Well, I don't know, is that question ever
It's
come up
one
here?
lot.
Is this, well, they say, okay, let's say, okay, you say it has to come, you'd have to come here to the shore, to the, get a permit. And then the landowner says, okay, I'm back 250 feet, I do what I want to do, I'm doing what I'm done, what are you gonna do? So what are we gonna say? Can't do it?
That's the way the ordinance is written.
So the ordinance would say, what, you can't do it?
If I go ahead and sign off on it, I'm not authorized
Authorized to what, to what?
to sign off on that structure, on a non-conforming shoreline zone lot.
And it's back more than 250 feet, you couldn't authorize it?
I wouldn't feel good about doing that.
How do you figure that?
I just told him twice.
Well, and then you could, then the applicant would go to the appeals court and go to administrative appeal.
No, they come here and submit an application.
I know, at first they come here for the permit, get turned down by you. Get passed by the board or turned down, whatever, you won't sign it, all right, then the applicant would go to the
You're
appeals
reading
court.
way too far into that.
Huh?
I think so, a little bit.
You're on the turnpike, we're still listening on their driveway.
You're taking us away, no, I'm sorry.
You're talking about outside of shoreline zoning. I don't see where you're going with this.
I think we should stop and get some beer or something. That's quite the road there, Peter.
What? No, I'm missing something. I think,
No, you're creating a good scenario, but it's just a little bit too far.
well, you brought up going beyond shoreline zoning, beyond 250 feet. And so I'm just saying, well, why worry about it? It's outside of shoreline zoning.
The question was the authority of the decision.
It's here,
I don't have the authority to approve that.
the court.
Do you agree, or?
You as a code
Code
enforcement
officer,
officer. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, they would have to come to the planning board regardless of where it was.
To be honest with you, I'm questioning whether it falls under the ordinance at all.
Wait, we're changing a lot of
I
conversation
mean,
here.
I hate to go around in a do loop, but
Guys, it's almost 9. You guys, we think we should
yeah, let's
wrap up,
solve at least one problem.
wrap up the conversation about, the stiff decision. We did a lot of good brainstorming. So I will suggest everybody here,
So, but George is proposing,
yeah,
you're adding another stipulation, right?
mhm.
of principal residential structure, which is a definition in the shoreline zone ordinance. Okay? Residential dwelling unit is not a definition in the ordinance, I don't believe. Is that correct?
There is a definition for residential dwelling unit.
And then in the definition you're adding, it would be 75% with the whole complements, but does not duplicate stuff.
Right.
I think that's a good place to start.
And the other thing I suggested, and this came from, so slight modification of some column. Colin Clark sent us, was a definition of bunkhouse. It's a little different than one you've used in the past, I know. But, I don't know if that's even necessary.
Detached bedroom?
Pardon?
You talking about detached bedroom?
Yeah. Yeah, no plumbing or cooking facilities, is intended to function as a temporary sleeping facilities for family, friends, and other non-paying personnel, personal guests of property owner with a single-family residential dwelling unit. I'm not quite sure where he got it from.
That's from the subsurface wastewater.
Okay, that's what I thought, but his citation was a little squirrely.
No, I think we should also, if you're gonna add that, add the detached bedroom. Because there's tons of those in shoreline zone already. That's the bunkhouse with plumbing. So we're already dealing with that.
So are you suggesting we add another definition?
Yeah. You want me to go photocopy it for you?
I think we should discuss it, yeah, and see what the board decides.
I'm losing steam, guys. I don't know, or you guys are losing steam. Getting to the bottom of my tank. My thoughts are not flying as fast as they usually are right now.
What is considered subordinate, less than 50%?
We were talking 75%.
Yeah, no, but it says bottom of page 2.
Oh, bottom of page 2. That was just me asking questions for discussion purposes, you know, what should that percentage be, you know, that's all. That's what I'm trying to accomplish there. Hence the question mark.
Yeah, it says, so X must be less than 93%.
Yeah, because that's what it was in the case of the Jones application.
Okay. Why do we settle for 75? Just curious.
I think, at least for me, it was so that that landowner that has a very small, old traditional camp can still, if they have everything else in order, you know, have 100-foot setback, that they're able to put up a garage or, you know, some structure of some usable size. If they only have, you know, 1,000 square foot camp, you know, I mean, most places now are houses, but
Yeah.
rather than true camps, but.
Item 16.
So this is out of
Subsurface wastewater rules.
It's out of where?
The subsurface wastewater rules in the state of Maine.
Yeah, bunkhouse, 23.
We're looking at 16. And the state created this definition last year when they put in the new rules because of shoreline zone.
So this is a room in an accessory structure, not a new accessory structure. So, there's one slight difference in the definition of bunkhouse that's in the wastewater rules versus the one I got from Colin Clark, and he has an accessory structure that has no plumbing or cooking facilities. i.e. it's not a residential dwelling unit. If we use his definition for bunkhouse, do we need a definition for bedroom detached?
Well, what are you gonna call like the bunkhouse that has plumbing? A dwelling unit?
Not necessarily. I mean, it would have to have all three. It would have to have sleeping, plumbing, and cooking.
No, that would be a principal residential unit.
No, not necessarily. I mean, it would, I mean, I don't. If it's, say, less than 75% of the floor area of the principal structure. So go back one step. This was sort of what Sarah was arguing very early on, that. And I had actually asked Phil about, and he kind of put the kibosh on this my thinking that you have to do a sort of one-on-one comparison between the existing structure and the proposed structure. So they have bedrooms in the principal structure, they can't have bedrooms in the second structure. If they have a kitchen in the first structure, they can't have a kitchen in the second structure. If they have a storage area in the first principal structure, you can't have a storage area, etc.
No, but what he said is that this, the way I remember. That the accessory structure can have the same things but less.
Right, so,
As long as it's not mimic, it's not equal or bigger or more or the same
yeah,
size.
so. If it's smaller. You're obviously not gonna have as many bedrooms.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have as big a bathroom. You're not gonna have as big a kitchen, but I think you could have all three. If you have enough lot area for a residential dwelling unit, because at that point
I
it
thought you
becomes a
said no
residential
kitchen
dwelling
at
unit.
all.
Yeah.
I think we need to start using proper terminology, because it's two principal dwellings. Residential dwelling unit is a different definition than principal.
Right. Agreed. But, what the court decided was. Just because something wasn't a residential dwelling unit, doesn't mean it can't be a principal structure. That's the key element of that court decision. Because what we did in that case was, in the court's view, was attempted to make a principal structure into an accessory structure by eliminating the kitchen. And that's not what we were trying to do. What we were trying to do was to ensure we didn't have two residential dwelling units on a lot. That didn't have sufficient area for two residential dwelling units.
So can we go back and say, that they erred in their thinking? They misrepresent
Well-
our purpose.
Let me ask you this, you know, at the last meeting, I. Cut out after the meeting with the attorney, but what did you decide on that little? Building that was the next.
Oh, we approved it.
Yeah, so that's,
Because
I mean,
it
one
was-
by one, that had bedroom, kitchen,
No.
No.
They
No
took-
kitchen?
No.
no bedroom?
They have bedrooms.
They had a bedroom, an office, and a bathroom, but normally a living space.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
They took all the cabinets.
so clearly not a residential dwelling unit. And because of its size and just overall, you know, it kind of quacked like a duck, so consequently an accessory dwelling unit.
And it had that.
Or a
half of it
accessory
was
structure.
Play area.
Say that again?
Half of it was a play area.
It was a play,
It
yes.
wasn't Like the.
Yeah, right,
original.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, you know, it's a perfectly, in my mind, a very reasonable decision. If I'd stayed, certainly I would have agreed with that. But I'm not sure the court said that, you know, if you have all three elements, if you have all the same, exact same elements or same functions as the original structure, that it's automatically a principal structure.
And.
Because Phil said pretty clearly, because it was in response to a question I asked, you know, you don't want to. Because I asked him about duplication of functions and uses and he said, you don't want to just do this one-on-one kind of analysis. You want to look at the whole package and.
Where did the idea of no kitchen, didn't the lawyer say?
Well, that's what got this town in trouble. No, not, well, this town didn't approve that when they told the Joneses to do the stuff, but they went ahead and did the kitchen. So the lawyers, the state lawyers used that in the court. And so that was a big deal. That was exactly what stamped that accessory unit to be equal as a primary structure.
So
We are scared thinking about.
So going back even a little further, Penny, well, I don't, it was when I was first on the board, I think, and, you know, we got applications for bunkhouses and garages with a bedroom above them and stuff like that, and Rich counseled us that, when he was state shoreline zoning coordinator, when he was working at DEP still before he retired, that they saw all kinds of problems and a lot of towns brought them to his attention where people would say they were gonna build a bunkhouse, but then they would put in, that it would have bedroom, kitchen, and bath. And at that point, it meets the definition of a residential dwelling unit as it's defined, because that's the three elements you have to have for that. Well, if it's a residential dwelling unit, that triggers the need to have an additional 40,000 square feet. And Rich's suggestion was the easiest way to deal with this and still give people mostly of what they really need, which is usually additional lodging.
And
Was to use a condition that said no cooking facilities. That's where that came from.
okay, because I thought that was the decision.
And my understanding is a lot of towns do exactly the same thing. According to the town attorney, have a condition that they. No cooking facilities, I believe Reedfield does and some others.
I thought the decision that they found against us.
No.
Was where that came from, okay, but
I mean, I'm happy to, put this in, I don't know of any place in the ordinance where detached bedroom is actually used, so.
Yeah, one thing,
Well, that's what I was wondering.
attached bedroom, same thing as a bunkhouse.
Yeah,
Except for a lot of plumbing.
So people just apply for a detached bedroom,
Exactly,
so.
but at least we have a definition.
Well,
No cooking.
what's weird about this
Okay.
definition, though, it says it's any room in an accessory structure. So it implies it's one room, you know, I don't get it.
And so this is your room above the garage with the
Oh, okay, yeah,
plumbing and everything except the kitchen. They created a definition for what Richard was saying to approve.
okay, yeah, no, I get it, no. Well, if people want me to add that, I will.
Yeah,
Sure, please.
I'm not. I don't want to take away plumbing. So if that allows them to have plumbing. Then they can apply for a detached bedroom
Mhm.
rather than foolish, because whatever.
So, my only question is, in the plumbing here, can they have plumbing? For that. Shower. I would think so, right?
It's in the definition of detached bedroom.
It didn't talk about,
Just think again.
plumbing at all. We can, you know, then bedroom, detached. It only talks about a bunkhouse, but it says bunkhouse down 23 says you can't have any plumbing. In the bunkhouse.
Yeah, so they apply for a detached bedroom.
Huh?
They'll have to apply for a detached bedroom.
They'll apply for 16.
Say that in here, 16 what?
So if they cannot do a bunkhouse, they will apply for the detached bedroom.
So they apply for detached, they apply under 16 criteria for detached bedroom, right? So they have no kitchen, right? Right, so if they want to have a bathroom in there, no, then they're gonna get a bathroom then, in 16,
Right.
right? And they just want a bunkhouse. Sleeping, no plumbing, all right. Well, I guess the point is you can't have a kitchen, right? Go ahead, if we go for a bunkhouse under 23. And it has no plumbing. Can you still have a kitchen? What? Under 23.
Yeah, see, like I said before, that's slightly different than. What I had drafted up and based on something from Colin. So, I mean, that's, you know, we could go either way, depending on what folks wanna do, I mean, we can eliminate. Or cooking facilities from the definition of bunkhouse, if you wanna make it. Consistent. Bunkhouse to me doesn't include cooking facilities, but
You never know.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to have it there. It's
I mean, any bunkhouse I've ever seen never had cooking facilities, I can tell you that right now.
People are very creative. Definitions, right?
I mean, it doesn't hurt to have redundancy.
Too bad to have a bunkhouse with no. Yeah.
Right.
And
No,
if
thank you.
I get invited to a place like
Yeah.
that, I can go get a hotel room.
That was kind of foolish.
Yeah, what it does encourages you to just go clean in the woods and forget the plumbing, that's subsurface wastewater completely.
That's okay in the summer, man, and in the winter.
No, it's.
All right, guys, so, how we go from here? I don't know if I'm gonna be able to, drive myself home. And-
Well, I'll tell you what I think I heard, and that is people are okay with, at least for,
First round, yeah.
a first round.
Yeah.
Of, what I put together. And the only remaining question is whether to add the definition of bedroom or a detached bedroom,
Well, that needs to be added,
that needs to be added.
Mhm.
I would think so, that gives an option to have some plumbing.
Well, yeah.
I agree with that.
All right, so add that, okay.
But I still think this is.
So I'll make those two changes, send it back to the bonds to put on the agenda for the next meeting. So,
Sounds good to me.
and then we can make a decision.
Mhm.
Number 16, the detached bedroom has no bathroom either.
No, just no, read what it says, that's plumbing.
I don't see that, I just see the kitchen.
With no kitchen, appliances, fixtures generally found. Good, it doesn't say no plumbing.
Or you could make it definitive and say bedroom, detached, means any room, accessory structure, no kitchen, however. Plumbing for bath facilities,
And that
whatever
doesn't
is
say that
okay.
plumbing's allowed either.
So should we add? If that's something along the lines of means any room in an accessory structure.
Is allowed.
With, sleeping facilities. And plumbing,
For bathroom.
but no. Or bathrooms.
For bathroom facilities. But no.
But no
with
kitchen,
no
kitchen appliances or fixtures generally found, blah, blah, blah. Would that be an improvement in your mind? How about others?
Yeah.
What about you,
That's better.
I'm good.
Sarah? You're good? Okay, Paul? Do you see a downside to that, Hans? No, is that a no, or are you giving up on us?
No, it's not anybody in this room, it's just the shoreline zone ordinance was kind of poorly, in the definitions were poorly written to start.
And so definitely is true.
I mean. Just looking at accessory structure, the definition of. Which is incidental and subordinate. You know, so basically it is saying you can have a kitchen. As long as it's smaller. You can have the bathroom and a bedroom, you have everything as long as it's smaller. So now you've got your two residential dwelling units on one lot. So where does accessory structure. Apart from dwelling unit, if it can have a bedroom.
Well, the court literally said. The existing main structure, the principal structure, has 3 bedrooms. The proposed structure has 3 bedrooms, you know. If it had 1 bedroom, maybe they would have, you know, it was smaller and had only 1 bedroom. So
That's accessory to the main.
yeah,
But the kitchen.
I don't.
So,
We'll get our asses
So-
to walk.
so I-
Can't be duplicative. So if the main structure has 3 bedrooms, I thought the accessory it could have 2 or less.
Yeah,
And I thought if the original, the structure had 2.5 baths,
and one.
the accessory could have a half or even a full one.
it can't be an exact duplicate, they can
But
duplicate up to 75%.
But my understanding was it absolutely could not have any kitchen appliances.
That's right,
Or cooking
right.
ability.
we're staying away from that.
But like you're telling me that it was rich, it wasn't a result of the decision by the.
No, that was a decision, well, I mean, the whole board approved it, of course, and at the time that this would be a condition that we would place, and we've used it. This board has used it a lot too, to ensure that we didn't end up with more than one dwelling unit on a lot that didn't have enough lot size for more than one dwelling unit.
Mhm.
Or if somebody played fast and loose, and, you know, we approved a bunkhouse, you know, with no kitchen, and they go ahead and put in a kitchen, that Hans has something nice and clear to be able to enforce.
Okay.
He's shaking his head, no.
So I will say that, so we commission Mr. Seal to rewrite what
Yeah, I'll make these changes
the changes.
and I'll send it to Hans.
Yeah, so, I will kindly suggest to jump all businesses, business and, we don't have minutes approved.
Nope. She put-
And, do we have discussion from the CEO?
Yeah, next. Meeting, you're gonna have a subdivision revision application. And. Anyways, if we were talking about the subdivision revision application. Do we wanna redo the fee structure? Because right now there is none for a revision. But we're not talking about that, so that's the limit of my conversation.
You know,
So
How much is the fee now for commercial subdivision?
it depends on if it's a major or a minor,
Okay,
and and those. I mean, this is gonna be dividing into 9 lots, so it would be considered a major subdivision if it was a new application. So but it's a revision. So.
so a substantial revision is what you're saying.
Exactly, if it was a subdivision, it'd be 50, you know, flat fee plus $50 per lot. Now it's gonna be nothing.
Oh.
So something to consider in our.
Yeah.
Revision application as a fee structure.
yeah, we can come up with that, right?
You know, it's good fun. Like, we don't have it in place now, so.
No,
Yeah, good point.
What is the minimum lot ordinance radius or diameter?
yeah, thank you. In our minimum lot size ordinance and. In several places, so if you look at like page.
Oh,
Oh, we're taking it back into the book. Anyway, like individual camp garage, it says have a boundary line form with a 65-foot radius circle can be inscribed. Okay, for the commercial, we're supposed to have a 90-foot radius circle. So how do you interpret a 90-foot radius circle?
You bring that, you have the lot and you bring the circle inside. And the radius of that circle is 90.
So it's 180-foot diameter, I mean, from end to side to side.
right.
Where we require 200 feet of road front. So basically the whole lot. Going back. If it's an irregular shaped lot. You may not get that.
That's exactly right. And in fact, the lot between this parcel and the post office, that was one of the problems that, prevented Home Depot, Jesus Christ. Dollar General from going in there. I mean, they had like 8 problems, but that was one of them. They also didn't have enough road frontage.
There's a lot between here and the.
Yeah, yeah, it's a oddball shaped lot. It's like L-shaped maybe.
Okay. Cause somebody did come to me and question that, are you sure it's not a 90-foot end to end inside of a 200-foot lot? Cause that would be about 50% in the center. And, yeah,
Yeah, that's been there forever, right? I don't know anything about the basis of it because it certainly predates me. I only remember it coming up in the course of, Dollar General.
So I missed it, what, the minimum lot ordinance says what? Radius?
yeah, I was just checking the accuracy of the word radius versus circle.
Well, radius is half, diameter of the whole, so what's?
Yeah, so if we have a 200-foot wide lot requirement. Now we're saying in the middle of that you gotta be able to use 180 feet of it. So you're
Okay, well.
Basically
Wouldn't it be
from buffer.
radius? I don't understand what's going on.
a 90-foot radius would be 180 feet
Yeah,
from side to side.
yeah.
So you've got basically your setbacks on either side.
It's great. Yeah, right, so, what,
I was just checking the accuracy.
yeah,
So what was the intent?
so we're gonna make it radius, radius would work for the property owner. For the benefit of the property owner, right? If it was radius. If it's diameter, it's gonna be much more restrictive, isn't it? The property owner?
It will be the same, was that, will it?
Wouldn't it?
Diameter is actually around, so it'd be much smaller. Radius is more restrictive.
Oh, well,
You have to make a circle anyways, won't matter. What are you talking
Well,
about?
if you said 90-foot circle, 90-foot circle is from one edge to the other is 90 feet. 90-foot radius means 180 feet from side to side.
Right.
It's double.
no, wait, if you got a radius, you got a circle. And you got the diameter of the circle is from one edge, one side to the other side, okay?
Correct.
Right, and you get the radius of the circle is from the center of the circle to us, to the
Yeah,
side.
half the
That's a half.
diameter.
That's all it is, yeah.
I
didn't
think
quite
somebody was
understand.
talking about perimeter rather than,
Oh,
Who was talking?
I don't know, but.
Anyhow, that's,
Okay,
I was just checking the,
all right, I will entertain motion to adjourn.
One last question, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay,
I just want to make sure. How are we gonna, what time are we gonna allocate to the Environment and Natural Resources Committee at our next meeting? Because we have that subdivision revisions, which sounds fairly major.
they've got it surveyed out, you know, again, with a revision, you're only focused on the lot that's being dissected,
Right.
not
yeah.
the whole infrastructure, so. You know, we did Tyler's in 15-20 minutes.
Yeah, but his was pretty simple.
Well, these are all conforming lots, I mean,
And there's no issues like with wetlands or
it's got
anything.
perk test, it's all dry.
Well, maybe it won't take long then. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't, I just asked, so.
okay, let me ask you this. On the 6 statements that we reviewed today. Should we consider getting a staff and create language with it for it?
Repeat that for me.
On the natural resource suggestions, we discussed 6 items,
Right,
okay? And I think out of the 6, I think I marked 5 of them that were a plus. That was something that we were willing to take on, work with it.
Just willing to look at, no permit, I'm not willing to do anything with those right now,
All right,
so.
so out of the 12, right, which ones you will say that you'll be ready to write language and put in the ordinance in March?
Put in the ordinance right now, none of them,
So,
so, I mean, this is a lot more discussion than what we had tonight.
Mm,
Tonight's just the beginning of discussion on these things, so we were just discussing it with them. We need to sit down as a board
Yeah.
about that. And go over all this stuff, so. You're trying to rush it. And. It's too late, it's
Well,
not gonna happen.
the way an easy way to break this up is basically today we talked about two
6,
topics.
yeah,
One was permit by rule review,
yeah,
and the other was septic.
yeah,
But you have
So-
your
And that covers
prioritize.
half of what they want,
mm-hmm,
and a lot of their septic suggestions are already in the ordinance. So they can pretty much. You know, it's,
I would like you know the ordinance better than I would like to sit down with you next week and go over that and highlight where they are in the ordinance, so.
the
So
one
we
that's-
can knock those out.
well, in anticipation of this kind of discussion, you may recall at the end, I asked them if they had to come, when they come next time, that if they had any recommendations on which of these recommendations are the most urgent in terms of something that the lakes would benefit from if they were in place
They
for the
didn't wanna
next
say
construction
anything, they
season.
consider all of them good.
I mean, you know, looking at that list, I could see two that would not be, are not that complex. Easy for me to say, but I may be wrong. And, might, be easily, drafted up. And,
Which ones?
well, one was, the PBR one.
Yeah,
And what was the other one? The other one was,
so PBR is number 1.
yes, number one and. Let me write that down. Oh, number 11, which. Would kind of address with that condition of approval, but it would be nice to have that condition of approval based on something in the ordinance. A little clearer than it is, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, that's just my thought. I mean, you know, that $1.75 gets you a cup of coffee down at Dave's. So.
No, my thought is we have to prioritize, just do 2 of them for a start, for the.
If anything, then would you agree on working on those 2?
Well,
Okay.
or 2 others. I mean, you know, I don't wanna. Number 1 seems like a relatively easy one to me, you know, and maybe one other. I don't know.
the 11, the only issue I've got with that is that last sentence. Under no circumstances may a grass lawn be established where one did not exist. A lot of times you clear vegetation, you can't help, stuff's gonna start to grow. I mean, where you might have been having a pine needle pathway. That pine tree falls down. Well, now sun gets in there, the needles aren't scorching out the vegetation. Stuff's gonna grow, you still wanna use it as a pathway, it's gonna turn into lawn.
Well,
Yeah, stop.
it doesn't even have to be 2. Maybe it's just 1. You know.
Well, start with the PBR, what's the?
And, you know, the stuff that deal with no mow and buffers. That's gonna take a lot of work. The legality,
Okay.
because again, you're telling people they can't do
Mhm.
stuff with their land. Or what they have to do.
Well, and then maybe we just. If we're gonna deal with anything, maybe we just deal with the PBR one, or we don't deal with any of them.
Deal with something, you make me feel good,
What's that?
make them.
Deal
feel
with
good.
something, yeah,
Something,
and we will do the rest of them in the
I
new
mean,
year.
you know, maybe they'll suggest something that. You know, we would be amenable to, I don't know.
But we definitely have our time, our work cut out for the next,
Yes.
meetings.
Absolutely.
And it's gonna be this thing, if we can add something for the first week in January, we'll be on the PBR, and that's it, and I'm gonna cut it off at that.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, when they met with us early on, we had recommended that they not come to us any later than November.
This is November.
And this is November, but it's late November but we didn't know all that was gonna be on our plate. We didn't know about the Supreme Court decision.
That's the thing.
So,
That's a different-
you know, I don't blame them and I don't blame us, so. It is what it is.
So. I will, in my mind, I'm making a second decision, then we only wanna concentrate on that one, and that's it.
Yes, yeah.
Fine with- fine with you?
Yeah,
So I'm making an executive decision
right, yeah,
that on the work that the Natural Resource Group have done,
right,
we're gonna concentrate on only that first one.
just one,
Just one, because we don't have time.
I know, I just wanna make sure.
And then at the beginning of the year, we can pick the rest, but going to be more, to be able to put it in language in the, to be, corral to go to the voters in March, only that first one.
Yeah.
We're good?
So number 11, I'd be afraid that if they were gonna push that, couldn't rake it on. Couldn't rake established areas,
Do you have issues with the first one, with the PBR?
maybe I don't know. But
Okay,
with number 11.
Yeah. That's
You
fine.
know, they said no raking leaves. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not, I'm gonna be raking my leaves. so,
Yeah, right. Try enforcing that.
Right,
And that's the thing is, people have a walkway and it starts to overgrow, they wanna be able to cut it, mow it.
Oh, sure, of course they do.
Groom it,
It
so
would
they,
be unsafe otherwise.
right, so, you know, I'm gonna have issues with number 11.
Yeah.
So if you wanna work with number 1,
Well, you know, if we want to implement most of those, we'd have to hire about 3 more code enforcement officers.
And a town planner.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how, you need some help down there, code enforcement officer, how many people you need?
well, I'm just wondering who's gonna tell Alpine to quit spreading fertilizer.
But seaweed,
okay, guys, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn,
I so moved.
okay? Mrs. Brown, yes, Mr. Surgeon,
yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander, and Mr. Roland gets 5 yeses, and we're done.
go to this one.